are finally live. Thank you so much for being patient. We are here with some incredible carnivores. I want everybody to introduce themselves. Obviously, I'm sure you know all of them already, but let's just go down the line. I am Steak and Butter Gal Bella. Let's start with Adam. Go ahead.
Hi everyone, Adam with Carnivore Today and Healing Humanity.
Hi everyone, Kerry from Homestead How and Healing Humanity.
Hello everyone, Dr. Bob Kiltz.
Hey, it's Dr. Shawn Baker. How are you guys?
Great to be here with everyone, Dr. Philip Ovadia.
Hello, Dr. Anthony Chaffee.
One more time, Dr. Chaffee.
Oh, all right. Dr. Anthony Chaffee, good to be here.
Awesome.
Alrighty, here we go.
What about Todd and Lindy? Are they not
Sorry,
Oh,
that's screwed up. There we go. Todd Bockness, Carnivore here.
And Limitless Lindy.
There we go.
Thank you.
Awesome. Okay.
Smooth start.
Yes. Let us know where you all are hopping on from. Put it in the live chat wherever you're connecting from.
fell off. That's a bad
Thank
sign.
you. Okay, I see that the sound is not ideal, so maybe we can
Alright,
fix the sound.
so Michael, go ahead and text me and tell me what that sounds like right now. What does it sound like out there, Michael?
Yeah. Let us know whose sound you would like to be louder, because we're all mic'd up separately. Dante, can you hear us?
Yes. Yes, I can hear you. How are you?
Welcome. Good. How are you?
I'm great. Wish I could be there, but hey, I'm alive.
That's right. That's good.
Oh, because you had a crash, right? Car crash, yeah.
Yeah, it's a car accident.
Yeah, I had a car accident on the Florida Turnpike on the way to the airport.
Oh, thankfully,
Florida drivers.
Well, those carnivore bones protected you. Probably the New Yorkers.
Okay. I see that everyone sounds tinny except for Dante.
Except for skinny. Alright, we'll go ahead and give it a little more here.
it might be just the
Yeah.
microphones.
Could be the microphone.
Yeah. They all have good
Nice.
microphones.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
This is one of the dentist conventions, carnivore.
There we go. We'll try to go.
Try again?
Yeah, let's try again one more time.
I'm really loud compared to everyone else my people are saying. Maybe I can turn mine down a little bit.
He says I sound like I'm in the bathroom. Okay, I guess.
All right. How do I sound? One
Yeah.
testing, 1 2, testing 1 2, testing 1 2, testing 1 2. What do you think, Dante? How do I sound to you?
Yeah.
It sounds good to me, but I can't compare my sound to your sound. But everybody on my live stream is saying that mine sounds louder.
Oh,
Okay.
okay. Only Dante is loud. Somebody said better now.
Better now?
Perfect, Todd. Dante sounds clear.
Okay.
Okay. Shall we
okay?
continue?
Yeah, let's
Go for
see
it.
what it keeps happening because it should be pretty
Are you,
close.
Okay.
are you listening to live stream?
Quiet. Okay.
Oh, cool.
Well, echo is making it hard to hear. Todd sounds good compared to Bella.
Huh.
Do we want to keep playing around or just continue?
Sure. Try that.
Testing, testing. I'm using Todd's microphone. Is that better, guys? Oh, I kind of hear an echo.
You have to wait like 10 minutes to get a type response. So.
We can also just take turns,
Yeah.
and I can turn mine off.
Yeah, why don't you
Yeah?
set that
Okay,
on?
let's do that. Much better. Okay, thank you, guys. We're going to turn off this one. Go ahead.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
Maybe this one will.
Okay, great feedback. Thank you. We are ready to go.
So are they looking like at a split screen of all of us, or just you talking? Do you guys know?
Right now, yeah, so right now it's looking at Chaffee and Bella. And
Okay.
So when you start talking, you're
Smile.
going to get
I guess. Yeah.
So,
I think we can do
Do
anything.
you want to switch a
embarrassing.
camera? Or
no, I think everything. Yeah, when
I mean, like switch screens throughout?
yeah, that's the plan. Yeah,
Perfect.
Yeah, when people are talking,
Perfect.
I just yeah. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Well, let's get started. This is a Q&A after all, so go ahead, type your questions in the chat. And I'm going to moderate, read out the questions for our panel today. I know a lot of you guys can't be here in Texas, Hack Your Health, so we are making it up to you all of the subscribers to all of these wonderful YouTubers by taking your questions today. All right. Go ahead.
Sounds bad. That's rude.
Dr. Chaffee sounds bad? How so? Oh no, you look massive compared to me, Dr. Chaffee.
Okay.
We want Kiltz. Let's show Kiltz. Dr. Kiltz.
There we go.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for being here.
There we go.
Awesome. All right, we've got a question from Gaia. Thank you so much for the super chat. She says, scoliosis of spine. I'm 40 years old. Not affecting me much, but how can I best prepare my spine and body to reverse or stop progression of it? Carnivore for 126 days now. Congratulations, by the way. Dr. Baker, what do you think?
Well, I have no idea why that went to me. No, I'm kidding. Well, I mean, it depends on the severity of the scoliosis. I mean, probably if she's 40, and maybe, I don't know how long she's had it, it's hard to say. But I think really the best thing you can do, honestly, is the same things I tell everybody to do for anything else. It's lifestyle, eat well, don't eat an inflammatory diet, because inflammatory diet will literally age our musculoskeletal system. She should strengthen her back, however she can effectively do that, again, without knowing her limitations. I would do that. I would make sure I maintain a healthy body weight. And beyond that, I don't know if there's anything you need to do beyond that preventively. I mean, like I said, scoliosis surgery is usually reserved for fairly severe curves, and it's often done early in life, but there are some adults that have that. But I think keep the back strong, keep the mind good, and that's, I think, the best you can do.
Thank you, Dr. Baker. So it looks like the audio is not so good. Maybe we can just pass it around your microphone, because everybody likes your sound, Todd. This one right here.
Yeah,
Yeah?
absolutely.
Let's
Could
try
be that you're
that.
just holding it close to your mouth too. I don't know.
Okay, so we can try that. Okay, we've got this next question from Lady Tash. Oh, maybe it was because it's in his shirt. Can you say something, Shawn?
Something.
What do you guys think? Let us know. All right, Lady Tash says, recommended butter/fat intake for one recovering from chronic pancreatitis and starvation to help to recover. Let's give this to Dr. Chaffee.
No. So pancreatitis. Well, I mean, obviously, if you're recovering pancreatitis, you have recovered from that, and you're just trying to get better. And obviously, it's the same advice. You're just trying to eat a diet that's not going to cause any more stress or inflammation in your body. It obviously matters what caused the pancreatitis. You want to eliminate any sort of issues that could be continue to trigger the pancreatitis. But really, it's not much of a difference. Typically, if you have acute pancreatitis, the idea is that you want to fast, you want to rest your pancreas and just let it relax. But if you've sort of recovered from that, you can start easing back into eating a normal diet. Meat is going to be extremely easy for you to digest and absorb, but if your pancreas is still stressed, you may not be able to tolerate all that much. So just ease into it and just see how your body goes with it. But it's the same sort of advice. You just have to maybe ease into it a bit easier, depending on how much it's affecting you at this point.
Excellent. All right, I have an idea to really make this live stream experience better. Let's all turn off our microphones, and we're just going to use Todd's excellent microphone, and we're just going to pass it around. Okay?
Okay, they still have an issue.
Yeah. Or we can keep.
Well, they might have one.
Yeah, let's keep one from that table. Dr. Kiltz, let's try your sound.
Testing 1, 2, 3. Can you hear okay?
That sounds really tinny. I can hear it.
Can you hear it over here?
Yeah.
It's overmodulated.
Let's try Dr. Ovadia's microphone.
All right, hopefully this is the winner. Do I have the best microphone?
Yeah, let us know, guys. Does Dr. Ovadia sound good? Type it in the chat. We're waiting.
That's
It's awful. That's just his voice.
Sorry, man. Just do want to try mine again, just to see.
Kiltz is muffled. Let's see if Ovadia sounds any better. Oh, Ovadia's good. Okay, so the rest of you guys just open up your microphone like this.
Someone else is saying Dr. O is not so good, so I think possibly subjective.
Better Dr. O. Let's go with Dr. O. So open up this lid and then click on off within that lid to turn off your microphone, except for Dr. O.
I guess the other question could be, is it
That's not right. There's no sound coming from them now. I don't know if anybody can hear me, but I hear the static also. Nothing coming through from the stream from Austin except for static. Okay, they're saying the same thing for me. Oh, they say they can hear me though on my channel, so just static on that end. All right. Well, since I'm in charge right now until we get the sound figured out, I just thought I would say hello to everyone that I wanted to be in Austin and see, but I wasn't able to be there. So, but life has its ups and downs, and I'm just thankful to be alive after the accident we had. I mean, it could have been a whole lot worse. So, and carnivore way of eating, I think, is one of those things that prepares my body for dangers like that. I've talked about it before. The only reason I feel like I need to see a doctor for anything anymore is acute care. And doesn't mean I want to have any, but, thankfully we didn't have to have any. I'm just thankful to be able to be here with these great folks that have been helping so many people get healthy on a carnivore way of eating. Let's see, we got some questions that came up in here. I'll see what I can do on my end to answer, or see if I can answer some of these questions while we're waiting on everyone to get in. So, Gypsy Moon Decals asked me, I am just looking into this. Do you cook with butter or olive oil for Lion Diet? I don't use either myself. I don't think they're the worst thing in the world, but I think that when you're starting off, you want to avoid any oils of any kind, and even butter, until you find out if it's something that your body is going to work well with. I guess they give it 6 weeks. What I use is tallow, and there's different kinds of tallow out there. You can make your own tallow. It's very simple. If you take some beef fat, specifically suet is the best. That's the kidney fat from the cow, and then you can cook that until it renders down into a liquid, and then squeeze out all the pieces and pour it into a vat, and you've got something you can scoop out and put into your whatever you're cooking anytime you want. I do a lot of cooking in the air fryer also, so it doesn't really require any type of grease or anything like that to be able to be used. You don't need to use any oil or butter when you're cooking that way. I usually just add some tallow to my steak when I'm done eating. That's how I handle that. Let's see, there's a question here for Dr. Kiltz. I don't know if they can hear me in Austin. Oh, they can. Okay. But I can't hear Dr. Kiltz to give an answer back. So let's see. My vegan son-in-law has only 2% healthy sperm. Morphology issue. Have you seen vegans improve their sperm quality on carnivore? I'll let Dr. Kiltz answer that one because I haven't seen anything like that. Let's see here. Carnivore Moxie. My mother-in-law just got diagnosed with cancer. She's now ready to jump on the carnivore way of eating. Well, that's a good idea, because one of the things that feeds cancer is sugar. And on a carnivore way of eating, you're not going to be consuming any. And that's going to really help limit the food source for the cancer, and hopefully help with what the doctors are trying to do to deal with that, whatever they're, if they're using chemotherapy or anything else. it's definitely going to help if you're not giving the cancer what it needs to eat, what it needs to thrive. Cancer cells have a tremendous amount of receptors for glucose, and they eat it like crazy. Phil Gonzalez says, I am saving this live chat. Well, you know what? Maybe that's the reason I was here. I don't know. Maybe that's the reason I had to stay behind, but I'm glad to be able to do that. I'm glad to be able to help while we're getting this straightened out. I wouldn't be surprised if they have to restart the live stream to get everything working, whatever's going on. I'm not sure. Let's see here. Just a little comment from Welderfish. Thank you, everyone, for your carnivore stories. I checked into the hospital April 1st at 420 pounds, started the carnivore way of eating. Where did it go? Now I'm having troubles with my, there it is. Started a carnivore way of eating May 1st, and I lost 40 pounds in 1 month. I feel great and have much energy. That's always good to hear, man. I tell you, anytime you can get that, a lot of these questions are going to be answered, I think, primarily for folks who are getting a lot of extra weight off their body. They're going to find that just having the weight off your body is going to make a huge difference for a lot of the problems you're having, especially if they're related to any aches or pains in your joints and other things where your back hurts or your legs or knees. Getting that weight off. I mean, I've lost close to 100 pounds on this diet, and I can't imagine what it would be like to walk around with 2 of those large barbell plates that you see at the gym that are 45 pounds a piece, carrying those everywhere I went. But essentially, that was what I was doing before this way of eating. It's no wonder I was too tired to get up and do any type of exercise or do anything that would be good for myself with all that extra weight going on. Oh, and somebody did point out a good one for Carnivore Moxie, who mentioned that her mother-in-law had cancer. Watch Dr. Safe Read for cancer. He does have a lot of great, he is a font of knowledge when it comes to cancer. Let's see, it proves, somebody mentioned it improves testosterone, especially eating eggs. I don't know specifically about the eating eggs part, but I can tell you from somebody that came from a background of having low testosterone before I started this way of eating. I was already on therapy for that. And when I got off of testosterone therapy after being on carnivore, hey, look, the sound's back.
Testing. Oh, Dante, thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Wow.
I'll finish that statement real quick if you don't mind. When I got off of testosterone, my numbers were actually about the same as they were 4 years after starting testosterone. And my doctors, all of them told me, your numbers are going to be way below what they were when you started because your body's just not used to producing its own testosterone. Well, 6 months after I quit taking testosterone, my numbers were the same. And then about 6 months after that, my numbers were 50% higher, only doing a carnivore way of eating. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean my testosterone is normal for me yet, but I will say that that is much better than what it was, and not taking any medicine to get to that point. I mean, who could ask for more? Being able to get rid of all the medicine and then feel as good as I do, fantastic.
Testosterone as well.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. Let's test the sound. Yeah.
Is my mic working?
Sounds good.
Can you hear Chaffee? Why don't you hold this?
All right, what about this?
Oh, perfect.
There we go. Just to say, I actually have a lot of patients that I treat with low testosterone, and when I put them on a carnivore diet, I invariably see their testosterone go up significantly, often doubling, sometimes even tripling their testosterone levels, and they maintain this. And sometimes, there are rumors going around that your steroid hormone binding globulin will go up along with your testosterone. So maybe your testosterone will go up, but your SHBG will go up, and your total or your free testosterone will go down. I have never seen that. I don't know if anybody else here has, but I've seen the exact opposite. So I've seen people's total testosterone go up and their free testosterone go up significantly. I've even had men in their 60s and 70s double or even triple their testosterone levels and have a free testosterone of a healthy 25-year-old. So that's something I quite commonly see when people go on a carnivore diet. And I've inherited a lot. I don't put people on TRT, but I've inherited a lot of patients on TRT, and I've gotten off, I don't know, over a dozen men from having TRT. So being able to get them off and have their body reestablish and their own testosterone production. In fact, one gentleman, when we took him off TRT because he felt so good, his total testosterone, free testosterone levels actually went up. So it seems that it was holding him back somewhat, and then obviously his body rebounded and created even more after that. So that's something I almost invariably see, really. I mean, never say never, but so far in my experience, everyone's testosterone goes up.
Can you, Dr. Chaffee, also mention something about what happens or what has happened over the years with testosterone numbers, how the normal level has moved down the scale over time so that what used to be normal for a man is now considered higher?
Yeah, so the testosterone levels are certainly in America and elsewhere as well, but the numbers that I'm familiar with are in America, have steadily gone down decade after decade. In fact, there was a paper that came out in the early 2000s that looked at the average testosterone levels of men in their 60s in the 1970s, comparing that to men in their 20s in the early 2000s, and they found that the men in their 60s in the 1970s were, around double what men in their 20s were in the 2000s. And so the paper came out and said that you aren't half the man that your grandfather was because of this. And since then, testosterone levels on average have gone down even further. So this is something that's decade after decade is coming down further and further. And I think that it's quite clear that this is something environmental. This is not genetic. This is not something that is just a normal phenomenon. Obviously, something is influencing us. And I think a major component of that is going to be dietary. But obviously, there are going to be other influences as well. But either way, this is compounding this effect. And what we're ending up with is a weakened society with abnormal hormonal state in both men and women, which is obviously going to affect fertility rate, among many other things. People think that high testosterone levels causes rage, and maybe it can, but low testosterone levels causes quite a lot of agitation and anger. And so we'll see men that have low testosterone levels will be very edgy and angry. And then I speak to people that do correct testosterone. They actually say that once they do, their wives come in a couple of weeks later and say, "Oh, thank you for whatever you did to my husband. He's just so much nicer now. He's so much better." So this is something that can certainly affect us negatively, both in our health, but also in our psychological health, and get us to be more happy, stable adults.
By the way, thank you, Dante, for holding the live stream while we were figuring out the audio. We really appreciate that. Thank you so much.
I'm just glad I was in the position to do it.
That was amazing. Okay, let's do this next question. Thank you, Art, for the super chat. I'm 2 months into carnivore trying to cure my sebopsoriasis. It's slightly better, but I still have flare-ups every week. Should I stick on it and be patient? Maybe increase the butter for faster healing. So I actually healed my psoriasis with the carnivore diet alone, and I did a very high-fat carnivore way of eating. So I personally ate a lot of butter, high-fat steaks, a lot of beef, and for me, the skin was the slowest to heal. Took about 6 months to heal for me. So I would definitely say be patient, give it more time, play around with how much fat is good for you. I would just eat as much fat as you crave. You definitely don't have to push the fat in the beginning when you're just 2 months in. And yeah, definitely be patient and give it some time. Dr. Kiltz, did you want to add?
Couple of things. One is that the inflammation from the plants, like poison ivy, think about it. So when you come in contact with poison ivy, you get irritation to your skin. It causes that inflammation. And so the plants are essentially poison, and plants are trying to kill you, as I think a famous doctor here might tell us every day. And ultimately, and I'm going to just add something about, because I heard a question about sperm function and sperm counts and egg and sperm quality is highly diminished also secondary to that plant exposure and poisons that we're getting. But ultimately, the carnivore and fatty meat diet is the simplest thing we can all do, but it's patience in the process, which is critical. Keep at it and you'll heal.
Awesome. Okay, let's keep going. This one is from KZ. I'm trying to gain weight with carnivore, but I'm losing and people are noticing the weight loss. I've been eating more on carnivore more than ever before when eating veg and carbs. Can you help? So carnivore for weight gain. Dante, why don't you start?
Well, for weight gain, well, I haven't seen a whole lot on that, but I have seen some people, like I got a couple of young guys that I work with here in Florida that are very in shape. And one of the things they wanted to do was to be able to get their abs ripped. And within a few days, one of them already told me he was able to achieve a lower weight than he had ever had, and that he had had since a very long time anyway. But the one thing I would say is that if you're eating a lot of protein, it would make sense that you got the building blocks for muscles. The key for gaining any weight is going to be making sure you use those muscles. You know, you got to lift something heavy, you get them going, of course, but you got all the building blocks there to be able to put on what weighs more than fat for size. You know, the size, a small amount of muscle is going to weigh more than a small amount of fat. So it's going to gain you some weight going that way. But it also, I guess it would depend on if you're having any, you know what? That's about all I got to say about that particular question.
Thanks, Dante.
I would be guessing.
Can I make a comment?
Please.
Well, we know that polar bears and many other animals gain weight by eating strictly carnivore. So eat more and more fat, you'll gain weight.
Yeah. I find that it really helps. It definitely helps to do more meals throughout the day. So you don't have to force yourself to eat OMAD or 2MAD. Sometimes doing 4MAD or 5MAD and eating what's comfortable for you will really help with that weight gain. And also eating some dairy products like cheese, yogurt, milk even, to help open up that appetite. I've seen a lot of carnivores who need to gain healthy weight do so successfully by doing those two things. How about you?
Yeah, so definitely just you do need to eat more. You need to eat enough. If you wanted to put on lean muscle mass, then you're stimulating your muscles to grow, obviously doing the appropriate exercises for that. But a lot of people undereat on a carnivore diet. It's very easy to do that because you feel very satiated very early on. And so you think, well, I could stop now. And normally we eat until I can stop now, so I'm going to stop now. And that's how we've limited our caloric intake so that we didn't get overweight in the past. But that's not what you're going for now. You actually want to sort of listen to your body more. So I find that if it still tastes good and your body's still giving you that pleasure response, that positive reward back, that you probably still need to eat. And so even though you could stop, if your body's still giving you that positive go signal, then just keep going. So you eat until it stops tasting good. I typically find for myself and for my patients that there is that point where it just sort of stops tasting good. It sort of tastes like cardboard, and that's when you can stop. So if it still tastes good, then definitely keep eating. And you should be able to put on healthy weight very easily.
Dr. Ovadia, any thoughts?
Probably not a whole lot to add there. I guess, I would want to go back and kind of understand why you're looking to put on weight. If you were severely underweight to start with, you're probably, you may be coming from a place that you were very malnourished, very nutrient deficient, and it's going to take a while to catch up with that. So I would agree with just keep eating more fatty meat, and over time it should work itself out. If it's not, you may want to look into things like, are you malabsorbing? Are you not absorbing the food that you're eating because of gut issues, leaky gut, stuff like that? Make sure you're not dealing with a thyroid issue that's, altering your metabolism and interfering with the ability to put weight on.
Perfect. And I'd love to hear your tips, Dr. Baker.
I didn't really catch how long he's been dealing with this, but you have to remember when you acutely change your food intake, there's a period where your body will compensate. So, let's say you're eating more calories, but perhaps your temperature goes up, perhaps your heart rate goes up. Those things can concur concurrently, and that will negate some of the extra calories you consume. That's why we see people that say they go on carnivore, they eat more food and actually lose weight. Over time, you can eventually lose that adaptation. And again, the weight you want to gain, I assume, is muscle. So absolutely most important thing is adequate stimulation of the muscles. That's training to or close to failure, the appropriate volume per week. Some studies would suggest 10 to 12 sets per week per body part. That seems for hypertrophy, that seems to be where the literature seems to suggest that's the best sort of volume that you need to do. So it's higher volume than you might be used to. And again, you just got to sometimes you got to push it past the point of comfort, depending how rapidly you want to gain. But honestly, most of the data out shows a slight increase in food over the long term is going to give you the best bang for your buck. Otherwise, you're going to gain probably excess body fat eventually. And you can gain body fat even on meat and fat if you eat it, past what you really need to eat it. So that's just a lot of the basics. It's a lot of time. It takes a long time. It took me in the last 8 years on carnivore, I put on 10 pounds of muscle. That's slightly more than a pound a year. That's a lot of work that went into that. So it doesn't come quick.
I will say that my fiance Max, also known as Steak and Butter Guy, he works out with Shawn a lot, but he also listens to all of Shawn's tips on how to gain muscle mass, how to eat, how often to eat. He has gained so much muscle mass. What you would say, yes.
Yeah, he's gotten a lot bigger. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
Definitely work. So work out, eat a lot of meat, and eat throughout the day. Okay, let's quickly do this one from Christine J. Do you only eat organic meats? And we can each answer this real quick.
No. So I think that you eat just the meat that tastes good to you, that you have available to you, that you can afford, and makes you feel the best. So for me, that's beef. I do prefer grass-fed and finished beef, but I don't always have access to that. And I don't think that you have to break the bank. I think that this is going to be, something that is going to be very healthy for you, even if it's not the best quality meat ever. It's still going to be a lot better than the alternatives. So, if whatever you have access to, go with that.
Go ahead, Dante.
Yeah, I eat both. I buy local when I can, and I always encourage people, if they can, to buy local, because our system with all the 4 major meat packers having such control of everything is a mess. And if you can support those local ranchers by buying their stuff locally, and it's grass fed and finished, that's even better for you. And of course, it's good for them, and it's going to alter this meat market. It'll alter the market for meat the way it is right now. Adding more people eating meat kind of drives the prices up, but at the same time, if we can get more people buying local, then these larger companies are going to have to adjust to what's going on. Now, when it comes to eating store-bought meat, most of my gains, in the sense of what I lost extra weight, was on store-bought meat. So I am not against getting store-bought meat. I do notice different qualities. Sometimes there's meat out there that's not USDA inspected here in the United States. And most of the time when I see that meat, it's very tough and leathery. So I avoid that. So I get the best store-bought meat that I can afford. And then I also supplement that with what I buy from my local rancher. So I'd say about 50% of the time I'm eating organically grass-fed, grass-finished beef. And it is a very different feel in your mouth. The cows have to be raised right. They have to be raised on good grass. I mean, they're not just left out there eating in a field where the cows are eating all the way down to the ground and they're not having any actual grass that they can pick up with their tongue. It makes a difference. It's good to know your rancher. But the bottom line is you don't have to eat grass-fed to get the benefits from this diet. It's just that we're all looking to optimize, and I try to add as much as I can for that purpose.
Awesome. Which camera should I be looking at, by the way, Todd?
Right there. So if you
This?
right there.
That one? Oh, got
That
it.
one.
Yeah, I agree with you, Dante. I try to support local farms. I buy from PCC. So I live in Washington. It's a local co-op. So I try to support local farms by buying meat there, but I also buy from Costco, Whole Foods, and I also buy from Manager's Specials to get that really great discount. So I do a mix of all types of meats.
I really just like Costco and local beef farms that we use in Montana. Just grass-fed, grass-finished beef is our favorite. Oh, I forgot to put the camera on myself. Let's see. How about you? What do you guys use?
I just buy for convenience. I go to the supermarket, just buy off the shelf. Occasionally we do order direct from the butcher, and I'll order like 2 weeks worth of meat at a time, and then just supplement with supermarket meat. So
let's go to Adam.
Take one down, pass around. I actually prefer the grain-finished beef. I've had grass-finished beef occasionally, and I don't really prefer the taste of that. So I actually healed a traumatic brain injury from 6 years prior to starting the carnivore diet with grain-finished beef. So I don't think there's actually anything wrong with that, but go with what you prefer.
I'm very fortunate. My neighbor is a 6th-generation farmer, so I try to get most of my beef from him, and it's pretty nice because I can drive by and I can see the cows, and it's one of the most natural things you can see. But I also buy from Costco sometimes, and I think any kind of meat you can get is probably 100 times better than the alternative.
I'm not sure what inorganic meat is because I think it's all organic. It's from a cow. You eat grass. I prefer grain-fed and eat meat, and that's all you need to do. You don't need to, it's not going to change your health by eating organic or grass-fed grain versus grass, in my opinion. Go get what you can afford, and you'll be healthy and well.
Yes, a question I get quite frequently, and the bottom line is it probably doesn't make much difference when it comes to human health. The only scientific data, there's been very few studies actually looked at that. Texas A&M did a study around 2014 where they looked at grass-finished versus grain-finished hamburger, and the outcomes were literally the grain-finished did slightly better. They looked at blood pressure and some of the lipid biomarkers. There's another study in Australia where they compared grain-finished beef to kangaroo meat for some odd reason, and they saw that the grain-finished meat showed higher postprandial inflammation, which is unclear what that even means, if it's significant or not. Harvard University, when they did their carnivore study, I asked the researchers to ask this question, and it turned out that there was no difference in outcome between those people ate grass-fed, grass-finished versus supermarket grain-finished beef. That's been my observation. Like we see, there's plenty of people that get healthy on grain-finished beef. It is more consistently finished. We have it down pretty well where we can get a consistent product here in the U.S. There are some really good grass-finished beef out there, but there's also some pretty badly, poorly tasting. So it's more variable. You can get some awful grass-finished beef, but you can get some great grass-finished beef if that's your preference. Now, if it comes to the environment, grass finishing doesn't necessarily mean better for the environment. You want to look for something that's truly regenerative, and that doesn't necessarily mean grass-finished. The label grass-finished in a supermarket is also very misleading. That just means the cows have access to grass. They don't even have to eat it as long as they have access to it. And if it's in Montana in January, they're probably finishing out on hay or something like that. So bottom line is, like everybody else says, eat what you enjoy. I think fat obviously is an issue, and you got to get enough fat. Grain finished tends to have more fat in there relative to grass finished, particularly if it's been finished perhaps too early, which is often the case. So I think, like most people say, it doesn't seem to matter that much.
And the only point I guess I'll add to it is I wouldn't put a whole lot of energy into stressing about your ruminant animal meat. If you're going to worry about this, probably pay more attention to the non-ruminant animals. If you're eating chicken and pork, that's probably more of a difference there. But even in that scenario, I say, the lowest quality meat is going to be an improvement over the junk processed food and the carbohydrates. So don't stress about it too much.
Perfect. All right, let's do this next question from Melina. My mom has been carnivore since January 1st. She hates the taste of meat and she cannot eat without sweet and sour sauce. What can she do? Well, I think you can definitely use sauces. Just try to make it sugar-free. There are still sour sauces like vinegar-based sauces that you can use that can go with your meat, your eggs, that bring a lot of flavor. You can use hot sauce. I really like this fish sauce from Red Boat. The brand is Red Boat. There's no sugar. It's just fish sauce. Very clean ingredients, so that's what I recommend. What about you?
Yeah, I think if she needs to use some sauces or seasonings to try to get get the goal of eating more meat accomplished, then that's fine. It's you don't throw out the good for the perfect. It's obviously going to be a lot better to have a bit of seasonings or spices. You just try not to make them as sugary and sweet, and try to use less of them if you can. But obviously, it's better to use a bit of seasoning on your meat than to just eat all the other garbage that you've been eating before. So it's a big step in the right direction. And then hopefully you can start using a bit less of that and less of that. Really try to avoid things with a lot of sugar in it, though. That would be my only caution when using sauces and things like that.
This is actually a great time to mention our sponsor for tonight, Carnivore Crisps. So maybe we can all hold up. Oh, Dante, you don't have it. Sorry, we didn't ship it to you. But we've got our Carnivore Crisps. Let's pan out to some other angles here. Thank you to Carnivore Crisp team. This is actually a great snack, especially if you like your crunchy textures. Yes, love it. We each got a different cut of meat. It's all just meat. I've got the ribeye here. Todd has got some dog treats, which, by the way, humans can eat.
Dog treats.
No, it's actually really good.
Poor Todd, the dog treats.
Todd, yeah, sorry. And then Lindy has some grass-fed beef flour, great for baking. And Dr. Chaffee, let's see what you have here.
Beef liver.
Beef liver, so it's a great way to get in your organs. And then we've got some fatty ones. Dr. Shawn Baker is holding up
Brisket.
beef brisket.
That's my favorite.
Oh my gosh, it's so good. That's my favorite too. Super fatty. So you can get your discount by using the code EATMEAT, all one word, and you can check out our description boxes for the link to shop. Awesome. Let's keep going. This is from 7 for you, Dr. Kiltz. 5 months carnivore, CGM usually is 90 to 100, random spikes to 130 to 140, but I don't eat carbs or sugar. Gluconeogenesis, is this possible? Any science on this?
Well, you eat meat, which has proteins which break down to amino acids, which require that they go to the liver and will convert to sugar. So you are going to get some sugar spikes from eating proteins. And you're going to get insulin spikes, which are important to convert them to fat. So, and I think that glucose is used for other things in the body. Besides gluconeogenesis, you're getting from the amino acids, other things. You're going to also get glycosylation, which are the sugars that are critical for post-translational modification of proteins, which is critical to our function of our body. So I think it's always hard to know with all this monitoring. How do you feel is what I think. Are you getting the changes on carnivore, feeling better? That's the most important part.
All right, let's do this one on Dr. Chaffee's channel. This is from Andrew. Let's show this up. Okay, he says, can there ever be a scenario where a statin should be used, such as heart attack, heart damage, atherosclerosis, CABG surgery, assuming person is on carnivore afterwards to heal?
I think this would be a great one to hear from Dr. Ovadia. This is his forte.
So, yeah, there might be situations, statins, like any other medication, ultimately we got to look at risk benefit. And there are scenarios where there is more benefit to taking statins, especially in what we call secondary prevention. So you've already had a heart attack, you've already had a stent, you've had bypass surgery. Ultimately, for me, the question comes down to looking at your cholesterol quality as opposed to your cholesterol quantity. And if you continue to have poor quality cholesterol, which sometimes, which is going to mean a lot of small dense particles, a lot of VLDL. And I do see some people, doing carnivore that persists for a while. And maybe there's going to be a benefit to cholesterol lowering in that situation. I think those are fairly rare situations, but there are some scenarios where the benefit of a statin might outweigh the risk.
All right, we have another super chat. We will prioritize the super chats just because we've got about 4,000 people watching right now. And any super chats, it's going to go to the top of my list and I'll show it on screen first. This is for Dr. Chaffee and Dr. Baker. Let's show this up on the screen. Dr. Chaffee and Dr. Baker are my inspirations for being carnivore. Oh. Any words, Dr. Baker?
Oh, there's no question. Okay, well, I'm sorry. You need better inspirations. No, okay. No, I mean just keep up the good work, and I tell you, every day for me is a struggle. It's not easy. You just got to keep doing it. Don't worry. Like I said, if you wait for motivation, you're never going to get it done. It's just I tell people to adopt the mindset of who you want to be. Your body won't go unless your mind goes there first. And so if you start just sort of demanding of yourself that you want to be something better, then believe it, and then your body and the rest of you will follow. So it's like I said, even though it maybe seems like it's easy for me, it's not. It's always a struggle. It's always a chance. But that's the nice thing about life. If life were always easy, it would be boring, and the struggle is what makes the success so much better. There'd be no happiness without sadness because it's all relative, right? So anyway, hopefully it's helpful.
And Dr. Chaffee, any words of encouragement for everyone?
Well, it was just very, very nice of you to say that, and I'm very glad that that our videos could help you and help inspire you to get healthy and get on a better track that can keep you healthy and happy for longer. So I really enjoy doing this. I've always liked meat. I've always hated vegetables, so this worked very well for me. But it's just nice to see how well people are doing with this and how many things that they're able to reverse and heal. It's actually pretty miraculous, when you see people in the clinic setting and they're having all these different sorts of very serious issues, and they do very simple but not always easy dietary changes, and you see absolutely miraculous recoveries in people that were heretofore believed to be incurable, irreversible. You can only mitigate the symptoms with very heavy and expensive, potentially medications. So it's just really nice to see more and more people trying this and coming out and having such great results. So thank you very much for giving it a try and for saying such nice things. Really happy that we could help.
I think was that a fan? I think for the next fundraiser, they want Chaffee and Baker to arm wrestle.
Yes.
I think that would be fair.
If you guys want to see that, comment yes or no in the live chat. We'll vote. Oh, Dante has his hand up. Me too.
Yeah. We already know the conclusion here.
What is that?
He's going to kick my ass.
All right, let's keep going with the questions. All right, our next super chat. Oh, I don't know if this is a question and it keeps running away. Just try to show it right there. Yeah, it just doesn't stay. Let's go to pinned. Yeah, Michael, help me pin the super chats and I'm just going to go through them. Super chats, yeah. Ivy. I remember someone saying that nose dripping after eating was a sign of some problem. For me, that was histamine intolerance. And in the beginning, I had that a lot. So when I ate anything aged, like cured meats, which is aged, cheeses that are aged, I would always get a runny nose, snot in my nose, congestion in my nose, and Dr. Chaffee can explain the science.
Oh. No, well, the thing is, I've noticed I get a runny nose sometimes after eating certain things, but I've broken my nose so many times in rugby. I just always have a bit of a sniffle, so it never really, never really triggered anything for me. But sometimes I do notice that. With the histamine sort of things, it doesn't really matter whether it's histamines or something else that's causing a reaction. What matters is you're having a bit of a reaction, and if that's enough of a reaction that it's affecting you negatively and you don't like it, then just try to avoid those sorts of meats that trigger that reaction. That's really all there is to it. Whether it's histamines or something else, doesn't really matter. And so if you're eating certain meats and you feel great, then just eat those. And if you're eating others that make you feel a bit sniffly or whatever, and you don't like that, then just avoid those. It doesn't really matter what's causing it.
This question is for you, Dr. Baker. I was fortunate to meet Shawn last year. I'll be there tomorrow at Hack Your Health, and I look forward to meeting all of you. Inspirations. Yay. That's it.
Oh, that's not okay. Well, come up, shake my hand. I'm happy to talk. Sure, absolutely. That's why I'm here. That's what I'm here for.
We're going to be speaking at 1 p.m. tomorrow, Sunday, and you will be able to see Dr. Baker, Dr. Kiltz, Dr. Chaffee, me, Emily Harvo, and Raymond Nazon. So hope to see you all there. Next super chat. I'm postmenopausal. Which are the best blood tests to do, and what levels should I be looking for? I have sleep and some other issues. A friend keeps telling me my hormones are probably out of whack. Dr. Kiltz?
Well, if you're postmenopausal, that means you're in menopause, and that means your ovaries are not making estrogen or progesterone any longer. And so they should be low, and you'd also find a high FSH, which is the hormone from the pituitary gland that directly stimulates the ovaries, trying to get it to make the reproductive hormones. But certainly a lot of the symptoms from menopause, hot flashes, are thermogenic inflammatory reactions, I believe. And by going carnivore, you'll significantly improve that and heal. And fatty meat, butter, well, those are things that I think are very important. I also believe that fasting, cold water therapy, red light therapy, get out and walk, do some weightlifting, and get out in sunlight. That's also real important.
What you have, obviously you've got some adrenal gland that's looking to produce some of those hormones, and I think there's studies in postmenopausal women looking at higher fat diets which do show at least an elevation in estrogen. Correct me if I'm wrong, Rob, on that.
Well, you're still going to have a low estrogen level on the postmenopausal because it's the ovaries that really contribute. You're going to get some testosterone coming from the adrenals more than anything. But I haven't seen any that's significant. Most patients that are menopause, you look at their estradiol levels, their progesterone levels, they're all single digits, yeah.
Okay, our next super chat from Mary. I have Parkinson's. Food choices, please, and I'm hoping to come off carbidopa, levodopa.
Well, you shouldn't come off any medications unless it's appropriate to. So do work closely with your neurologist. Not everybody can come off their medications. There are many people coming off many medications. Everybody can come off every medication. That's very important to not drop those unless it's appropriate to with the help of your doctor. As far as the best things to eat, it would be the same things. It would be the high-fat meats, high quality meats with very good fat content, DHA, EPA content, and very low inflammatory foods. Things that aren't going to cause any sort of neuroinflammation. Get rid of omega-6s, linoleic acid, all different plant toxins, all these sorts of things. So doing a high-fat carnivore diet, and just see how your body takes to that. Obviously very ketogenic. It should be, if we're just talking just meat and water, you should be in a ketogenic state, and that's much better for neurological issues as well, for a number of reasons. Ketones will suppress inflammation, but it will also it's a better energy fuel source for your brain. 2/3 of your brain, such as the cortex, primarily runs on ketones, and so now you're providing adequate energy source for your brain, and they can reconstitute into fatty acids in the blood, in the brain, and be used to heal the physical structures of the brain as well. So there are studies looking at ketogenic diets helping with Parkinson's disease. How much this can help will be very much individual, and so don't come off your levodopa unless it's appropriate to. My father has been able to come off levodopa, and he has Parkinson's. He was diagnosed with Parkinson's about 7 years ago. He was on levodopa for a few years, and he has subsequently come off of that. Not everybody can do that, and he was on it for years before he was able to come off of it as well. And he was doing carnivore for several years. So just be very mindful of that. It's I do get worried when people talk about coming off medications, just because some people do jump the gun and they say, oh, I've been carnivore for 2 weeks and I came off all my diabetes medication, but my blood sugar is 180. It's like, well, then you probably shouldn't have come off your diabetes medication. So only do this when it's appropriate, and do it with the help of your doctor.
Thank you, Dr. Chaffee. Kerry, go ahead.
If you want to get inspired regarding Parkinson's, we interviewed a woman for our documentary. She had Parkinson's, and she overcame it with carnivore. And she did carnivore, and then she got stricter and did the lion diet. And one of the things we learned from her was she has all sorts of interesting cuts of meat, like beef shank and things we've never tried before. But she has an incredible story, and she was able to get off her medication with the help of her doctor eventually. Her name is Mimi Morgan.
Awesome. Thank you, Kerry. Let's keep going. This is our next super chat from Saltsy Sarah. What advice do you have for someone new to carnivore that has meat aversion? Meat never sounds and never tastes good. Let's just all give our best quick tip for meat aversion.
Sometimes if you're, what I always feel is that if your body's telling you not to eat meat, it's probably telling you just not to eat in general. You don't have to eat garbage just because you don't want to eat meat. I've experienced meat aversion where my body, even though I've been working out and lifting weights and playing rugby, everything in me was telling me, don't eat a steak. That sounds awful. I was like, well, that doesn't make any sense. I love steak. It's my favorite thing. And it just said, no, don't do it. And I cooked it anyway, and I tried to eat it, and it just really didn't taste good. And so I just stopped. I just listened to my body, and I didn't think like, well, I need to go eat something, so I'll go eat a bag of potato chips. I just didn't eat anything, and I was very nervous about that at first. And the next day, I felt great, and the aversion was gone, and steak tasted great again. So I think that given a reasonable amount of time, if your body's telling you to do that, maybe it's telling you to fast. And just like we have like a flu or something like that, and you just sort of lose your appetite. It could be something that your body's telling you to just avoid eating. But I wouldn't think that you'd still want to eat garbage just because you're not eating meat.
Go ahead, Dante.
It may also depend on how you're cooking it. I know a lot of people go to YouTube to look for ideas on how to cook their steak, and many of the channels that I see talking about cooking steak talk about marinades, and they talk about putting a whole bunch of things in there that are not the meat. Before I started a carnivore way of eating, every time I would eat a steak, if it was done with a marinade or it had a whole bunch of other vegetable stuff in it, I always thought, this tastes awful. I like eating meat, but this doesn't taste good. And the people who were giving it to me were trying to tell me how everybody loves their marinade and how great it was. When I went to only cooking with salt, that was the first time where I was like, man, this tastes fantastic. So it could be a big part of how you're cooking it. Makes a big difference.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, you could just be a bad cook. That's something to consider.
Or you could just not cook at all and eat it raw.
Yes.
Yeah. I actually eat a lot of raw sashimi. That gave me a lot of good variety, especially when I was a little tired of just cooked meat. So sashimi, the cold, refreshing taste, the texture is so good. I recommend going to your local Korean market, Japanese market. They have the sashimi sliced for you in the refrigerated section. It's delicious. Let's go to Ovadia.
Yeah, just I would say take advantage of the large variety of animal protein sources that we have on this planet. All the different ruminants, non-ruminants, seafood, and different preparations, and go to one of the carnivore cookbooks or carnivore cooking channels. You can get lots of great ideas to get some variety, and you'll probably overcome it with time.
Dr. Baker?
I don't believe in meat aversion. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, I mean, I think, yeah, obviously, if you're not familiar with it and you're used to eating overcooked, poor quality meat, then that's going to obviously get into that. I mean, it takes a period of time to figure out what you like. And, like I said, it doesn't mean you have to go from 0 to 60 overnight. It might be that you have to slowly transition into carnivore and you just gradually increase the amount of meat you eat along with other foods for a while until you are able to start to find something you like. And it may take quite a bit of experimentation. Some people, it's hard to believe, but not everybody wants a ribeye steak. And so some people will find success with the literally thousands of options that are out there.
Repeat after me. I love meat. I love meat. And lions that don't eat meat become meat. But it takes time to figure out where you want to go in the meat world. But as Dr. Ovadia said, there are many, many choices out there. I love tartare. Raw is the best. Put an egg on it. Amazing. Just the yolk and a little bit of salt. Perfect. But I love meat.
I love meat. I love meat. My wife had a meat aversion. She just hit 70 days on carnivore after falling off the first time because of a meat aversion. And what worked for her is Dr. Ovadia's advice. She tried different cuts of meat. She seems to do just fine with ground beef or burger patties or slow-cooked meat, but she's not quite ready for steaks yet. My sister did the same thing. She just hit 1 year on carnivore. It took her a couple months, and then one day she called me, and she's like, all of a sudden, I just have this craving for fatty ribeye. So eventually it does come around.
I love Dr. Kiltz and meat. So this is all great advice that we've heard so far. And I can speak from my experience where meat aversion happened for me when I had to lose weight, actually. And once I actually, got down to my target weight or close to it, I didn't really have any sort of meat aversion anymore. So I love meat.
Every time I get meat aversion, well, I don't anymore because I fast. I eat for 7 days and then I fast for 7 days, and fasting for 7 days makes me really love meat. So I think fasting is ultimate. Yeah, fasting is the ultimate cure for being picky. So that's what I find works the best for me.
Yeah, I often get steak aversion, so I like to slow cook my meat. So I roast it first and throw it in the slow cooker, throw in lots of water and make it really soupy. And it's just that texture difference it's a big difference.
Okay, our next super chat is from All Freedom for Dr. Kiltz. Are there any baby formulas that do not contain oil?
Mother's breast milk. That's really it. And you can actually get donated breast milk, and that's what you should be looking at, because the baby formulas are not the way to go, in my opinion. There may be some out there. I have not seen them yet, but I would try to find donated breast milk if you can't make it on your own.
I actually just looked into this recently because I had a friend of mine who's they had a baby, and mother's milk just didn't come in, and so they were looking at that, so they're getting donation milk, and then they found other people that were willing to donate and had extra milk and things like that. Were going to give it free. They were a bit nervous about that, just because they didn't know about their Pepsi and all these other sorts of things, and didn't know if they took different medications and substances and all these sorts of things. So they were a bit concerned about that. We looked long and hard. We really couldn't find any formulas that didn't have seed oils, certainly not in America. I think there's some sort of law that says they have to put these stupid things in there to get this certain requisite amounts of omega-6s, and they want the linoleic acid apparently, not arachidonic acid, which is the animal source omega-6. So not in America. We looked in Australia. We looked in New Zealand. We found some goat's milk-based formulas, but they all had like palm oil and things like that in it as well. So you can find ones that are better. They're typically outside of the U.S., But no, I haven't found any that don't have them. So it might be something for the entrepreneurs out there to think about making something like that a better option, because there are people looking for it. But I agree with Dr. Kiltz that you can actually often find people that are willing to donate milk, and you obviously want to have a good idea of what the mother's eating, and if they're on medications and all these sorts of things, and if there's any sort of communicable illnesses that they can translate through the breast milk. But yeah, it's difficult.
Let me just add one thing to that, and certainly I agree with breast milk is clearly best. Interestingly, this is an aside, but it's an interesting study. There was a study out there looking at babies fed breast milk versus formula, and they found that the babies that had breast milk actually saw their total cholesterol go up significantly more than the baby formula by 13 weeks, which is kind of interesting that breast milk causes cholesterol to go up, which kind of makes you wonder, is breast milk bad for us, which clearly it's not. There is, on the Weston A. Price Foundation, does have a homemade formula using goat's milk to substitute for that. So again, goat's milk is probably the best non-human milk, I think, that's out there. I'm not a specialist in it, but that formula does exist, and they have a way to make that. So that might be of interest.
TPN, or looking at lipids, which if you look at the fish oil lipids, which contains egg proteins and fish oil, might be something to look at. I haven't heard of anyone using it for that, but something interesting.
Okay, this is from David. Thank you for your second super chat. I'm sorry, guys. We are now over 4,000 people watching the live stream, and we all want to say thank you so much for taking the time to be with us. We really mean it. I know each and every one of these carnivores here, they appreciate your support every single day. I know I do. So all of the super chats are literally in line in front of my screen. I'm just going through each one, and we're trying to do our best answering all of your questions. So thank you so much for being patient. Okay, David. Bride started carnivore in March. Oh, congrats. LDL was 130, 2 months later, 220. Told not to panic, but it's hard not to when traditional doctors are. Note, she was malnourished and underweight to start. Thoughts, Dr. Ovadia?
So again, like I said earlier, lipid quality, not lipid quantity. Someone like this, if we have reason to be concerned, you can get an advanced lipid panel. You can look at particle sizes. Depending on age, you might want to get a coronary artery calcium scan. But ultimately, if everything else is getting better and she's feeling better and her overall health seems to be improving, I wouldn't be getting hung up on one particular number on a blood panel.
Yeah, I'll just add, you mentioned she was sounded like quite thin and malnourished. According to Adrian Sotomoto's meta-analysis of 41 RCTs, looking at what drives up LDL cholesterol in a low-carb setting, low BMI is the most common thing to do that. So BMI below 25 was associated with significant increases in LDL cholesterol. Class 2 obesity or BMI above 35 often associated with reduced LDL cholesterol. And again, it's like Phil says, it's conditional. I think it's a dependent variable. So it's something you shouldn't ignore, but you should get more information. And I think that's probably the most, based on what we know now, that's probably the most prudent advice.
Anyone want to contribute? Or we're good? Okay, let's keep going. Okay, oops, let's do Ricky. This is next, showing on screen now. Is carnivore safe for those with CKD?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the main reasons people worry about carnivore diet with kidney issues, they think that higher protein intake will damage the kidneys, but it does not. There's actually quite a decent amount of literature on this showing that higher protein consumption actually improves kidney function. I've certainly seen that in my clinical practice. I've seen people with CKD4, CKD5 actually reverse that, come out of that, and get to a normal or near normal kidney function on a fatty meat and water diet. So No, there are a lot of things that, since I've started pulling at these strings and these threads, going down the rabbit hole that we all have, I've come to realize that a lot of things in medicine were based on a best guess at the time, and wasn't necessarily substantiated with experimental data or even observational data, long-term observational data, and so just that best guess at the time, when people were doing the best that they could at the time with the information they had available, that stuck around. And then we just repeat these things ad nauseum, and we just, everyone knows this. Everyone knows that more protein makes your kidneys get damaged, and yet when people do the studies, they find that kidney function actually tends to improve with protein increase. And also, you're removing all these nephrotoxic poisons that come with a lot of these plants, like oxalates and other sorts of things. So you're getting rid of things that damage your kidney, and you're giving your body better nutrition that improves your kidney function and multi-organ function. So no, you can definitely do carnivore with CKD.
Yeah, let me just add to this. So some of the original thoughts around kidney disease and protein came from something called the Brenner hypothesis. Dr. Brenner in the 80s did a lot of studies on rats, and found that they indeed, on a high protein diet, saw a lot of issues with their kidney, with their glomerulus. That subsequently is never really proven in humans. Stuart Phillips' paper in 2018, which was a large systematic review, basically concluded that higher protein diets do not affect normal kidneys. Now, Dr. David Unwin has published a study 2020-2021 looking at diabetics with kidney disease. Higher protein diets actually showed reversal of that. A recent large meta-analysis just was published like 2 weeks ago that showed that mortality in patients with chronic kidney disease was increased on a low-protein diet. So low-protein diets actually increase mortality in people with chronic kidney disease. This was just published like 2 weeks ago. So short answer is eat meat, stop eating garbage. It'll fix your kidneys.
Yeah, and the only other thing to add is pay attention to how you're measuring kidney function. You may want to look at a cystatin C level as opposed to a creatinine level, which can be affected by dietary protein amounts. Cystatin C won't be affected by dietary protein.
Thank you. Let's keep going. Dante, you answer this first. It's on the screen. Does eating some cheese every day affect anything too drastically? And will it stop the weight loss? There are so many different opinions on cheese.
Well, it seems to be different for each person and their ability to process dairy in general, even cheese once it's been fermented. I've tried hard cheeses in my way of eating, and it does tend to stop my weight loss. And it also can cause problems going to the bathroom for me. Now, I know a lot of carnivores who do fantastic eating cheese. So it really it depends on the person, is my experience on that.
I'd love to add that raw cheese versus pasteurized cheese really makes a difference. I've experimented with unpasteurized, which is raw, and then eating pasteurized. So raw, unpasteurized is just easier to digest. And you all can go to realmilk.com to find raw cheese and raw dairy near you. Go ahead, Dr. Kiltz.
If you look at Pottinger's cat study, where they showed that raw, unpasteurized milk and raw meat was healthier for cats than pasteurized and cooked meat. And so ultimately, I think what Bella talks about is really important. But remember, milk is for babies and cheese is a milk product. And so meat, fatty meat, salt and water is really the healthiest thing we can eat. But there are some people that don't tolerate cheeses as well, like eggs. So I find that I do well with it, and others don't.
The question was about weight loss and cheese?
Yes.
Yeah. So I found that when I was attempting to lose weight, first of all, I never even started to lose weight. Started the carnivore diet to lose weight. I started for an autoimmune condition, and then I started to lose weight and got excited about that part. And I did find that when I ate cheese, it totally stalled my weight loss. So I quickly cut out the cheese, no pun intended, and the weight started to drop off.
That was great. Thank you, Adam. Thank you, everyone. This is about electrolytes and energy. Dr. Chaffee, you can take this. I'm on day 50, still struggling with energy levels. I started taking iodine and element raw unflavored. Do you have any suggestions? Thank you all.
Okay, well, I mean, okay, so I mean, the question is really about energy levels. I mean, I don't think you necessarily need to take iodine or electrolytes unless you're actually low on them. I don't typically see too many people dropping their electrolytes. Some people can. Iodine, if you're low on iodine, certainly take that, but not everybody's going to be. So it depends on where your meat's coming from. I check people's iodine pretty typically, and most people on a carnivore diet that I test don't have low iodine. Some do. It's going to depend on where you're getting your meat from and how your body metabolizes it. I would caution people about iodine. Typically, it's very safe for most people, but it does show up in the literature that if you have Hashimoto's thyroiditis, which is an autoimmune condition that is way more common than people realize, that it can actually exacerbate Hashimoto. So be careful with that. If you're low, then you still need some, but you just don't want to have an abundant amount. So just be careful of that. So for day 50 and struggling with energy levels, there can be a lot of reasons for this. Are you not eating enough? Are you not eating enough fat? Are you eating at different times of the day that may impede your energy levels? Most people, when they're eating a very large fatty meal of meat, they can be quite lethargic after this. And so if you find that that's the case, then maybe try to get your busy schedule out of the way first before you eat a big fatty meal, or try to have smaller meals that aren't going to trigger that same amount of lethargy. Make sure you're getting up water, making sure you're sleeping correctly, making sure you're doing all the other peripheral things around your diet that are certainly going to affect your energy levels and your health. And then day 50, a lot of people are going to be fat adapted at this point, but not everybody is. And so if you've corrected all these things and you've eliminated out everything except meat and water, because that's another thing that I see a lot of people, they say, I'm doing a carnivore diet for 50 days, but then they're actually eating a whole bunch of other things that could be complicating things. So assuming that you are only eating fatty meat and water, then just keep going with that. And some people do take a couple months. I saw one guy that took around 6 months before his energy levels really came back. That was an outlier. That was only one sort of case, but I've seen a few others that take about 3 months. LMNT, are you taking the LMNT that has the artificial sweeteners and stevia in it? That could potentially, some people could, I've seen this in the literature both ways, and I've seen this in patients both ways with CGMs, that sometimes it affects their blood sugar, sometimes it doesn't. But some people can stimulate insulin just from the sweetness of stevia, and that could potentially give you reactive hypoglycemia. And so that could certainly negatively affect your energy level. So there's some
One of the things is getting rid of stimulants, caffeine. That can affect you significantly. And lions, and we don't sleep as much as we should. We should take more naps, and a power nap is really great. And another thing is we're all tired at times, but by simply getting up and beginning to move, you begin to get the energy of motion and the blood flow, and your energy just seems to expand. And I think it's highly important to start getting walking and moving and get out in sunlight. That'll help too.
Yeah, just to piggyback on what, did you want to go, Todd? Sorry. Okay. Just to piggyback on what Dr. Chaffee was saying, there's some evidence that if you, for the average size person, exceeds about 75 grams of protein in a meal, you will see a rise in glucose, often basically through glucagon stimulation. So glucagon will cause the liver to break down glycogen, and you'll see a rise in blood glucose. So if you're eating a big bolus of protein, you might actually get a relatively early rise in glucose, which then may be subsequently followed by a period of fatigue. So that's just something to keep in mind, the size of your meal. So just kind of play with that and see if I eat too much at one time, how does my fatigue sort of, how does it affected by that?
I was just going to have a follow-up question to actually something you said, Dr. Chaffee, about. I was wondering what is the opposite side of that coin? Because I know you're warning about iodine with Hashi's, and I'm just personally curious because I started doing that Brownstein's 50 milligrams of iodine a day that Ken Berry interviewed. And that has been the closest thing to a miracle that I've ever seen happen for me. And also one other person in the SBG had the same thing. And I'm just curious while you're all here why that is having such a crazy effect, you know?
Why the taking the iodine is having such a good effect?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Just because those doses. Yeah, those doses, because I used to take 2 or 3 milligrams a day. Now I'm taking 50 milligrams a day, and literally, it's given me 7 times the amount of energy, stamina. The sore throat that I had, I was getting cramps in my throat, like I had a goiter or something starting. That went away, and I'm not even kidding you, but I see in high definition color now, like compared to what I did. I do not know why that happened, but it was the craziest thing, and I am addicted to 50 milligrams. I take it like coffee. I look forward to it every morning because it's just such a huge energy boost. And I'm just curious what that might be.
Well, I mean, if you're significantly deficient in iodine, you're not going to make thyroid hormone. You know, like there's T0 through T4. That number next to the T is the number of iodine molecules that's in there. So this is something that you have to have, or you won't make these things properly. I mean, there's iodines used in other capacities in the body as well. So if you're sort of significantly deficient in this, then you're going to have significant problems. The main thing is just with Hashimoto's. You know, if someone has Hashimoto's, that can actually trigger an exacerbation of the Hashimoto's. At least that's what the literature says. But if you're deficient in it, you still need to get it. You know, if you're not getting it from your diet, if you're not getting it from seafood or animals that are eating grass and things like that have been grown with iodine-rich soil, then you need to get it from somewhere. It's just to be mindful that if you take too much, it can trigger Hashimoto's, but you still need enough. You know? Yeah. So even if you have Hashimoto's, but it's more delicate. I don't know if you have Hashimoto's, but you don't. Yeah. So that's yeah. So I have a couple patients with Hashimoto's that also had iodine deficient, like significant iodine deficiency. And so I will put them on some iodine, but I very carefully bring them up. I start off very slowly and then start bringing them up, and I test them, and I say, okay, they're in a very good range. We're just going to keep it at that level. We're not going to just go overboard.
That was really
I'd like to
interesting
add
what you
on
said.
the energy side.
Yep,
One of the things I've noticed over 2 years, the past 2 years, where I've had to change different jobs, and I'm working in the morning, working in the evening, working the swing shift, working the graveyard shift. All of this has happened in 2 years, and I noticed a huge difference when I started swapping my schedule around like that. Circadian rhythm and sleep is huge for your overall energy, and this is probably the most important thing I could say for getting that nailed down. And it's hard when you have to work a job or something that's adjusting your schedule like that. But if you can get up at the same time every morning, get out and get a little walk, get some water to start before you drink coffee. If you're a coffee drinker, start with water, start with a little sunlight in your eyes. It's going to make a huge difference in your ability to wake up. I've gotten back into some morning walking. Like I said, my schedule has been very difficult on that. And in just a few days, I've noticed the difference in getting back out and seeing that early morning sunrise, helping to get my mind going. And I have felt much better all day long just in those 2 days. And anytime that I've been able to get my circadian rhythm straight, it has made a huge difference.
Keep going. Okay. Yeah. This is for Kerry Homestead Howe from Phil G. What is the best weapon to use in fighting off a chicken who wants to steal your steak?
Your foot.
Hey, great. All right. This is from Melanie. This is for Dr. O. My 67-year-old father just had heart surgery. Is there any risk for him to start a carnivore diet while he is healing?
No, there isn't any risk, and my experience has been that it can help with the healing process. Protein is certainly essential. After heart surgery, we're trying to heal usually a bone that we've cut, the sternum. You're trying to heal your skin. Protein, high protein, is going to help with that. And presumably, if he needed heart surgery, he was probably insulin resistant. And the sooner you start correcting that, the better the recovery period is going to be.
This is from Matt. Also for you, Dr. O. Carnivore since December 2023. I'm type 2 diabetic. I'm 6'4", 275 pounds, 48 years old. I am now down 25 pounds. Labs are now 7.7 for A1C, 3.6 for CPEP, 230 LDL, 153 TG, and 43 HDL. May 24th labs are now 6.91 A1C, 3.4 CPEP, 203 LDL, 82 TG, 49 HDL, fasting insulin 21.8, no meds since January 2024. Any thoughts on the progress?
Yeah, great progress, but still a ways to go. You still have insulin resistance based on those numbers. Interestingly, like Shawn alluded to earlier, your LDL went down. It sounds like, right? Did I hear that right? But that would not be unexpected with a high BMI to start with. So keep doing what you're doing, but you still got some insulin resistance to overcome. And it can take a while. If you've been insulin resistant for many years or decades, it's not going to correct overnight.
Mm-hmm. One more for you, Dr. O. Can carnivore help those affected by gastrocardiac syndrome? Gastrocardiac syndrome. Could carnivore help?
Gastrocardiac syndrome. So I think you're probably talking about...
it's also called Rumheld syndrome. Do you know how to pronounce that?
Rumheld, I don't know. I haven't seen that one.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you're talking about after you eat that you are having issues. Maybe you want to clarify.
No problem. We can come back to that.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Dr. Baker, what are your thoughts about the political implications of the carnivore diet? There appears to be a push to reduce meat consumption in the recent years.
Well, I mean, it's unfortunate that this has become politicized, and but the reality is, there are people that have influence over policy that can affect agriculture, which can in turn affect what we have access to eat, and certainly, you'd have to be living under a rock to not realize that they have been pushing for reduction in meat. That has been, talked about for many, many years. They're asking nicely right now, which, we all have the right to say, we'll do what we want to do. The concern is if they decide not to ask nicely anymore. And I mean, realistically, the reductions in meat will not be, they're not going to say you're going to be forced to cut back, or we're going to, ban it in certain locations. Likely what they'll do is make farming very difficult. And really where we're going to see this is in the ranchers. They're going to be put under intense pressure. A lot of small ranchers will go out of business, so the food will be further centralized. So it is a concern. And, like I said, if you're concerned about your health and the future of your family's health and down the road, we all have to make it part of our mission. And so support your local ranchers. Let your local politicians, and you're going to have more success. You're not going to write a letter to the president of the United States and expect him to read it. But what you can do is let your local people know about it. And the other thing you can do, most importantly, is you get a vote every day when you decide what you eat, what you buy at the store. And if you decide to support companies that continue to feed you garbage, you just give them more power. That's essentially a vote for those people. So you got to vote with your pocketbook. You've got to let your wishes be known, and you have to stand strong, and you have to influence those around you. And like I said, this is something that is a real issue, and we're all in this fight. It's literally a war we're in.
Anyone else want to?
Yeah.
Many of the great thinkers throughout history have talked about limiting meat to the masses as a means of control, from Machiavelli to Plato. So, it doesn't surprise me at all when you hear people in the World Economic Forum talking about wanting you to eat crickets and bugs and all these other things, wanting you to, Bill Gates wanting you to eat digitally printed vegetable food or something. Well, I don't know what they're doing, but whatever they're doing, it has very little to do with your health and a lot more to do with having control over people.
Absolutely. And I think about that a lot lately too. I think what you said was awesome, Shawn, because my mom's got Parkinson's and she's back eating bad food, and I'm watching her kill herself. And I literally go in the kitchen. There's, donuts in there and all this crap that I've watched her get so sick on, and it just makes me so mad when I see that food. I'm like, I wouldn't eat that for anything in the world anymore, because it's like we're funding the war on ourselves. We're literally giving these people money to, make propaganda and shove this down our throats and get people addicted on it. And I really believe that. So that struck a nerve with me.
May I comment?
Yeah, go
It
ahead.
went from the tobacco industry to the food industry, and basically we know that tobacco is not good for us, yet it was pushed on all of us, and now they've switched it to push us onto non-meat products, plant products, which are highly processed and highly addictive and highly damaging. You need to talk to your local representatives, your state and national representatives. You have to write letters. You have to join your local cattlemen's association and work with your ranchers. And I did what Todd and Shawn said.
Yeah, the tobacco companies basically took over the food industry in a lot of ways. Back in the, I think it was the early 90s, R.J. Reynolds bought out several of the major food manufacturers, and they're using the same techniques they use to get people hooked on cigarettes. They want to get the doctors to agree with what they're saying, and they've used the things that are in the food, just like they did that are in the cigarettes, to keep you hooked.
Yeah, Philip Morris bought out Kraft, I think, in the 80s as well, and
That was it,
conglomerated a
Philip
lot
Morris.
of food companies. No, it wasn't just Philip Morris. It was a lot of the tobacco companies bought up a lot of the food companies and just transitioned their same process, into processed food. So, yeah, it's just the same drug dealers pushing a different drug, basically.
Okay, this is from Morton next, Dr. Chaffee. Have any of you experienced anyone with ME/CFS who has switched to carnivore?
Chronic fatigue syndrome.
Yeah, chronic fatigue syndrome. I've seen quite a number of people that have improved their symptoms. I'm sure other people have had similar experiences, but I've certainly spoken to a lot of people online that have significantly improved their chronic fatigue syndrome. There's even books written back in the 1800s from a lady who was I forget her name, but she came across Dr. Salisbury's work in the late 1800s. She was bedridden for like 9 years, and then she just went on the Salisbury diet of just beef and water, and she eventually completely reversed all of her issues. So who knows what her underlying diagnosis was, but she was completely bedridden for 9 years. So we actually do see that. It's anecdotal, but there's a lot of anecdotes, and the most important thing is what it does for you. So give it a try, give it time. It's not going to change overnight. There's an old saying that there's no shortcuts. You walk 10 miles into the woods, you got to walk 10 miles out, and so it's going to take some time. And so give your body a chance to heal. But a lot of people do find a significant benefit, and so just see how you go. You're going to improve in a lot of ways, and so. That can, if that's enough for you, then that's great, and it give you enough time to hopefully heal the issues that you have.
All right. Thank you, Christopher, for your super chat. It's on the screen. For Dr. Baker first, what is the carnivore community doing in response to the various unreasonable attempts by the various state legislature? Let me just put this on the screen. Oh, can't read it. Okay. To limit the meat industry, such as Prop 12 in California, and their improper attempts to limit meats in schools.
Nina Teichholz has been lobbying for a decade now to get the dietary guidelines change. I'll say unsuccessfully, unfortunately. And I had mentioned to her that I think she's going up against a captured organization in the USDA. We have some real issues with that. I don't know what can be done in the short term for changing that. Again, I think that what we have to do as a community is continue to vote with our checkbook, vote with our wallets. That is really the most powerful power we have. Now, aside from that, things I'm doing in the background, trying to get research published and accomplished, raising money for that. I think we're all trying to do the right thing here. I've got a company, Dr. Kiltz does work. All of us here are trying to do the right thing for people. A lot of us have sacrificed tremendously in our careers to do so. And, for folks to actually support what we're doing, particularly in the beginning, it's not one person that's going to make a difference. It's going to be the action and the efforts of literally hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people to do that. So we all just have to stand strong, and we all have to, just every day be disciplined about it and think about what the long-term effect is about what we do and how we vote with our checkbooks.
And stop voting for people who want to conduct social engineering projects on us. Start voting for people who are interested in individual freedom so that we don't have to have somebody telling us what they think we should be eating for their ideological purposes.
Move to Texas.
Florida.
Yeah.
And Florida.
Either one works for me. I love them both.
So, when you're talking about the schools pushing on, plant-based sort of diets, that's something that's happening more and more in schools now. In Australia, where I am, there are entire elementary schools that don't allow meat at all to come in the school. So you're not allowed to put meat in your kids' lunches, which is pretty ridiculous that that they can tell a parent what they're allowed to or not allowed to feed their kids. But I think that at that level, parents really need to kick up a fuss and just say absolutely not. This is ridiculous, and we're not gonna sit down for this. Parents actually have a lot more control than they realize. They used to have a lot of control, and now they've sort of basically stuffed them down and just say, "Oh, well, teachers get to do whatever they want. The schools do whatever they want." There are kids now, and you don't get any say in that. That's actually not true. Like any sort of abusive relationship, they try to scare you into saying, "I'm in control here," because they're afraid that you're actually going to exert your power. You have a lot of power as a parent, and so if you make enough noise, things are going to have to move, and if enough parents make noise together, then you can actually get some changes done. And a lot of teachers and school districts actually do care about the kids, and would be willing to listen to things and be reasonable about it. So if your school is trying to push meatless Mondays and all this sort of garbage, just go in and tell them what you think about it and say, look, this isn't really healthy for the kids. I don't think this is the right way to go. And if enough people do that, then you'll start seeing changes at the local level, and that will spread from there. It's very important. Your local influence actually has a huge impact, and much more than you realize. People say, well, what can I do? What can I do? It's just too big of a problem. You can affect the things in your local area. If everybody affects things in their local area, then that actually literally will change the world. So you just focus on your area and your kids and your school and these sorts of situations that you do have under your control. And if everybody else starts doing that as well, we'll get where we want to be.
Okay, this is from Sherilyn for you, Dr. Chaffee. I had seizures due to high blood pressure, now controlled and on blood pressure medication. I'm on Carnivore right now. Side effects of seizure meds driving me nuts. Any hopes of getting off of this drug?
Very, very potentially. I mean, we have about 100 years of research looking at epilepsy and ketogenic diets, generally high-fat, meat-based ketogenic diets. Those are the ones that seem to be effective. Interestingly enough, there are some ketogenic diet studies that have come out recently saying, they may not be all that good for these sorts of reasons. And what sort of ketogenic diet are they? It's very high fat, and to get their fat up, we give them Crisco. Obviously, that's the fat source that you want is Crisco. And look at that, they didn't have as good of an outcome as many other studies have found. And like, well, I wonder why. So, but as far as epilepsy is concerned, we literally go back nearly a century of clinical data and experimental data, and then just real world data on high fat meat based ketogenic diets like a carnivore diet, significantly improving outcomes. And anecdotally, I've seen people with epilepsy who have improved further from a ketogenic diet onto a carnivore diet, presumably because you're getting rid of other seizure triggers that exist in these plant toxins and things like that. So I can't say whether or not you'll be able to reduce or completely eliminate your seizure medications. However, many people have, and many people have at least been able to reduce their dosages, and many people have been able to come off of them. Even people with malignant brain tumors, such as Andrew Scarborough, he still had some residual tumor. Last I've spoken to him, he said that he does not, after 10 years with the GBM, he does not have any residual tumor left. It's sort of at least not visible on MRI, which is great. He was able to wean off 2 seizure medications, even though he had residual tumor at the time and had a craniotomy and partial resection, which can significantly increase your risk of epilepsy. But that's not everybody. I do strongly recommend doing this under the guidance of your neurologist and being very careful with this, because you don't want to start triggering seizures. The more seizures you have, the more likely you are to have more seizures. And it lowers your threshold to have further seizures. Conversely, the longer you go without a seizure, the less likely you are to have a seizure. So work with your neurologist. If you're seizure-free for 6 months, it's a very reasonable time to start talking to your neurologist and say, hey, can we start thinking about reducing the medication on this? But do so very slowly and only with medical guidance.
And Dave, thank you so much for your super chat and your kind words. We appreciate you. This is from Mark. What is the best alcohol to drink at social events? I only fail strict carnivore when I drink alcohol. It's hard not to drink at events with friends. Any thoughts, Dr. Baker?
Yeah, I don't drink alcohol. It's a silly question. Alcohol's a poison. What's the best alcohol to drink? The one that you're not going to, maybe the most disgusting stuff that you can find, so you don't drink it. There's no redeeming qualities in alcohol, and to make that excuse to predetermine that you're going to fail, that you can't enjoy your life without being drunk or inebriated, is to me, just kind of, more or less ridiculous. You can certainly rank order alcohols by degree of awfulness, but it's generally just a bad idea in general. So I would not try to justify any type of alcohol. If you drink, okay, you've done it, but don't ask me to condone it. I'm not going to. It'll happen, but there's no good alcohols.
Sparkling water on ice with the squeeze of lemon or lime.
So I stopped drinking during the rugby season when I was 21. I was one of those kids that I enjoyed drinking as a teenager. I really liked the culture in rugby, in no small part due to the party aspect, the drinking aspect, things like that. Something I really enjoyed. And then I turned 21 and I went to the bar and went, oh, look, I can go here legally now. And I just instantly realized I've been coming here for 3 years. Just illegally on the fake ID or being snuck in the back door by my rugby friends. Instantly, the thrill was gone, and I just sort of was, just not as thrilled by it. And I ended up stopping drinking for several weeks, and I just felt so much better physically, and I was playing so much better that I just said, okay, well, I'm just going to try not drinking during the whole season. So for me, it was very strange at first, and it was very awkward when I was out and not drinking when other people were drinking. I felt very self-conscious. I felt very strange, but I did it. The next week, I still felt self-conscious and weird, but it wasn't as bad. Third week, sort of neutral. Fourth week, I actually preferred it. And now I have no problem going out into drinking social situations and not drinking. I don't feel compelled to drink. I don't feel, it's not like a dare program where people are like, oh, why aren't you drinking? All that sort of, I just don't care. And no one else really cares either. If you're just there having fun and you're not being weird, then they don't care either. So it's just something you can get used to. So, it's not that you need to avoid those situations, but, maybe for a little bit you should avoid it just to get used to not drinking for a while. But, you can get used to these situations and get comfortable in those situations and still have just as good of a time, if not better, when you're sober, and then you don't have to spend hundreds of dollars on a stupid bar tab. You can actually drive home, and you're not just a wreck doing stupid things. So it actually ends up being better. So I actually prefer going out now sober, but I've have a lot of experience doing that. But it just takes a couple times getting used to it, and it actually preferable afterwards.
Yeah, I'll just add one more point. If you, again, think about who you surround yourself with. If you only find people that can only enjoy themselves if they get drunk, you're hanging out with the wrong people. So think about that long term. I mean, it may suck in the short term. You might have to sever some ties with the relationships, but if you can't be around a place with these people without having to give yourself brain damage to do it, then you need to rethink what you're doing.
For a lot of us, the carnivore diet exposed the fact that we have addictions that we're dealing with. It's not just maybe the weight issue or the health issue. It's that we've been addicted to something, whether it was alcohol or food or drugs or a lot of other things. And if you are fighting those addictions this way, then you definitely have to take a step back and say, you know what, I love you, but I can't participate in what you're doing because it's taking me down a road that I can't go down. And all I need is a justification to partake in one of my previous addictions, and I'll jump at it, just like many other people who are addicted. And you got to remember, most of the population is addicted to what's in our food right now because it's been designed to hit a bliss point in your body and in your mind that causes you to keep coming back for it, just like a regular drug does. And a lot of that came from the tobacco companies taking over and really putting that into high gear. But you go all the way back to the 1940s when the notion of the bliss point was even invented by somebody at General Foods. They're trying to get you hooked on their product. Well, we're hooked on so many things these days. It can be a very difficult thing socially to adapt to this, but you've got to remember you're doing this for health purposes. So yeah, maybe sometimes you do have to take a step back from people that are in your life who are in that addiction process, in that addiction mode, because we tend to group together and enjoy our addictions. And it's a tough battle, but it's something that you can win. And that's one of the things I love about this carnivore community being here, is because we can support each other in that process. I mean, a lot of us are addicts living in a crack house, and it's very difficult without somebody to give you that support. So that's why I love this community.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, Dante, because, I had a whole lot of addictions before I did carnivore. I had nicotine addiction, gambling addictions, sugar addictions, caffeine addictions. And what was crazy, the most unexpected thing about carnivore was when my hormones healed, my compulsive addictive nature went away completely. I quit a 20+ year nicotine habit without even trying to. I wasn't even trying to. It was something healed in my brain, and I didn't want it anymore. My body didn't want it anymore. I had, this gambling addiction that I had that I had on the shelf, but the monkey was always on my back, completely melted away after getting hormonally healthy. So I think there is something huge there. Whatever is going on with our food is making us incredibly impulsive. To an extent that I would have never imagined that healing your body through food could have done that. So I think you hit the nail on the head.
Can I add one other thing, that plants are highly fermentable in our gut, and fermenting plants makes alcohol. So essentially our children are walking around with alcohol in their brains in their body. And so that's one of the main reasons we become addicted to it, because it's another thing like nicotine, caffeine, and alcohol, and many other drugs that are in plants that addict our brain and damage it.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. And thank you for your question. This is from Leap of Faith. Can you speak specifically to gout and the safety of somebody with a history of gout converting to carnivore? Thank you all. From Lone and Dr. Baker.
Well, I mean, we typically associate gout with high levels of uric acid, but the reality is it is one part of that equation, and gout is really a metabolic issue. It is a complex thing that occurs. I've operated on a lot of people with gout, doing arthroscopies and surgical excisions on that, and I've rarely seen somebody express gout that didn't have some kind of underlying metabolic issue, insulin resistance, type 2 diabetes, and so on and so forth. And you can have gout with relatively low levels of uric acid. You can not have gout with relatively high levels of uric acid. And what I would say is that maybe in the short term, if you're particularly metabolically compromised, and you go carnivore and you increase your purine consumption, you might have a flare initially. You might have to still take the standard regimens, the allopurinol, the colchicines, the anti-inflammatories to get through it. But over time, as your metabolic health will improve, the likelihood of you flaring your gout is going to go down tremendously. And in fact, most people, even with gout, when they go carnivore, often just don't have gout flares. There's a small percentage that do, so you have to be mindful of that. And you still have to treat it because it can be very painful. But again, gout is not just about uric acid. There's many, many things that go on. Even body temperature. Why does it happen in your big toe mostly? It's the coldest part of your body, and so it causes the crystals to precipitate there. So there's a lot of factors that go into gout, and it's not just how much meat you might eat. And again, if you're worried about that, obviously fructose and alcohol would be huge drivers of gout. So get metabolically healthy, and you won't have to worry about it.
Great. Moving on. This is from Fish. So, Fish, yes. Let me show it up on screen. Fish Jacks. Hello all, I hope you're well. Can discontinuing Tisabri infusion because of side effects be more risky? I'm over the side effects.
So, it depends on what you're taking this for. It's typically used for autoimmune conditions, which I think everyone here probably would agree that this is something that a carnivore diet works extremely well for. That eliminating out all sort of plants, everything else except meat and water, especially red meat and water going on a lion diet, that this can significantly improve people's autoimmunity. I think this is large. I think from what I can see, autoimmunity is the body reacting to different sorts of toxins that get in the body, and these toxins are probably causing some problem, attacking your body, and you're making antibodies towards them, and your body's getting hit in the crossfire. So we take a lot of these immune modulating drugs to suppress your body from defending itself, which is helpful in certain circumstances, but it's really not addressing the underlying cause. So depending on what sort of autoimmune issue that you have, and depending on how well that's being treated with your diet, I would strongly recommend being on a strict red meat and water diet, the ruminant animal meat and water diet, so like a lion diet, and then see how you go. If you're a few months in, say if you have Crohn's or something like that, and if you have a few months in and you're not having any flare-ups and you're feeling great, that's a reasonable time to start thinking about coming off of those sorts of infusions. Work with your doctor, but that is something that people have been able to do, especially with things like Crohn's. I've even seen it with multiple sclerosis and many other sorts of autoimmune issues. But if you're still having bits of flare-ups like that, then definitely not the right time to think about coming off the medication.
Yeah, I'll just add, as Anthony was saying, Tisabri is an autoimmune modulating drug typically used for Crohn's disease. But it is important to not just cold turkey quit a lot of these drugs, and because they can set you back significantly to the point where maybe it precipitates some sort of surgical treatment, which you otherwise could avoid. At Rivero, that is what we do. We literally have physicians that are trained to help people come off these medications. So however you decide to do that, it's not bad to come off these drugs, and obviously preferable. These drugs, side effects include increased rates of infection, increased rates of cancers, so on and so forth. So it's great to get off them if you can, but just be careful how you do it, and definitely involve some sort of physician intervention.
Dante, did you want to add to this?
Oh, no, I didn't have anything for this one. I'm sorry.
No worries, just checking. Okay, we'll go on. Okay. IBSD 25 years, carnivore 5 years, lion diet 29 days plus iodine. Pain is gone, but diarrhea persists. Doctors, nurse practitioners, GI doctors, unhelpful. Suggestions, Dante?
29 days plus iodine. Well, first of all, have you tested to see if you needed iodine? But I don't think that's going to be a huge one. Let's see, diarrhea persisting. It could depend on how strict you're being with lion diet. I noticed that if I cheat just a little bit, that I'll go back to what we call keto flu, or, a polite way of saying having diarrhea, basically, in my opinion, because anytime that I have something that I shouldn't, it triggers that, and it could last for weeks. So if you're giving yourself a treat once every 2 weeks or once a week or once every 3 weeks or anything like that, it could keep you in that mode for a long period of time.
You also want to check with your healthcare provider, make sure you don't have a gastroenteritis, colitis, and something else that may be causing persistent diarrhea. So we can't ignore that. You may have a gastritis, need antibiotic, but get checked also.
Great. This is from Andrew. I travel around the country every week and thought it would be difficult finding carnivorous options. After 2 years of carnivore, it is actually easy. What is everyone's go-to location to get carnivore meals, and what is it?
Well, I mean, I always try to keep it, from like a grocery store, getting like whole meats and things like that. And even like going camping, I'll just get steaks and cut them up into little cubes and use that as on a stick, and those are my marshmallows, and I just sort of roast them over a fire. It's great. It's fantastic. I've even had like long road trips where I didn't have a chance to cook, where I just get like a whole ham and some butter, and just like slices of ham and butter, and that works well as well. And even just raw meat. But as far as like stopping by stores and things like that, sometimes you can go to even fast food places and just get burger patties. I do that a lot in airports when I'm traveling all over the place, and that's really my only access. Just get a stack of burger patties just on their own, and just eat those. So whatever's sort of available in that sense. And other times I just don't eat. If there's not something that I want to eat I don't think is good for me, I just don't eat. It's it's not that I'm fasting, but it's like I don't have to eat. I'm not starving, and so if there's nothing around me that I think is good for me, I just won't eat, and it's not that big of a deal. And I get to a point where a place where I can eat and I eat something better, and I just catch up. Then it's not that big a deal.
Dante, and then Dr. Ovadia, and then we'll go down the table. Go ahead.
When it comes to eating out, my best suggestion is just to avoid it if you can, but it's not always easy. And like Dr. Chaffee said, one of the things that I try to do is if I have to eat out, I'd prefer not to eat. But there are times when I've stopped by McDonald's or someplace like that, but then, there's other things that are in the meats that they use at these places, like they're finding high amounts of microplastics. So you got to get picky about it. I think Five Guys is probably one of your better options for meat, as long as they're not using any oil on the meat. And I understand that they do not. Also, be careful when you eat out. Most of the time, the meat, when I get it from places like McDonald's, they don't use enough salt, first of all, to give it any flavor. For some reason, it just tastes bland. And the salt that you get when you go out almost always has dextrose in it. I thought it was a rare thing when I first heard it was Dr. Saladino talking about the fact that McDonald's had dextrose in their salt. And I thought, well, why in the world would they do that? They claim to use it as an anti-caking agent. And then I started looking at other salts in other places like Circle K and convenience stores where I might want to grab some. They had dextrose. Look at a bottle of Morton salt, has dextrose. So you want to carry some good salt with you if you're going to be eating meat out. And just tell them to cook it without any seasoning. You'll add your own.
Awesome. Dr. O?
Yeah, as someone who travels a lot, certainly deal with this. I agree with what Anthony said. Sometimes fasting or just not eating, becomes the best option. And of course, this is probably a good time for a plug for our sponsor today, some Carnivore crisps. Plenty of options, meat sticks that you can find that are clean. Hard-boiled eggs, will keep well for travel purposes, needing some stuff on the road. So lots of great options. I agree with you. It really isn't that challenging. You can always go to the burger place. You can always find a steak place, and just look for the options that are around you.
Yeah, not too much, different to add here. I think that just one thing, this one tip, if you go to a burger place, just establish before you pay what the burger patties cost. Like you ask them if they'll sell extra burger patties. You can tell them it's for your dog, and they'll often give you a better price. Don't get roped in paying for a whole burger when you're just getting a burger patty. It should literally cost you half as much. So, like, I go to Wendy's a lot. I just think they're pretty good nationally. I usually pay anywhere between $1.29 and $1.79 for a burger patty, for a quarter-pound burger patty. So don't settle for anything higher than that. You can even call them ahead of time. I've done that. I've called them and asked if they'll sell burger patties individually, and I'll ask them the price. And tell them it's for your dog. And because, then you just tell them you want 10 of them. Your dog's real hungry.
I prefer to eat at home. If I'm traveling, I often will take the opportunity not to eat for a day or two, and especially when you're traveling on airplanes and hotels. And I think fasting, and think about hunting however many years ago, and you weren't finding your hunt for a few days, maybe a week. And so I think we're built to fast more, and that's one of the best things I think we can do.
My advice is to be prepared. My friend Bill Knott says, prepare, prepare, prepare. So I've been doing a lot of traveling for the documentary, and we'll make up like a big power bowl, we call it. It's scrambled eggs with ground beef and bacon all scrambled together. We'll bring that with, and it's great cold. Otherwise, I'll just hit fast food and get the burger patties.
Yeah, there's not much I can add here. The 18-hour drive here to Hack Your Health, I actually packed some sliced ribeyes and put them in a cooler and just ate that on the way. And when I ran out of those, shout out to my wife. She actually told me about a discount that you can get at McDonald's, actually, and I never thought I'd download the McDonald's app. So if you download the McDonald's app, you can actually get 20% off any order over $5 every single day. So that's part of what you can do to kind of hack your budget, if you will.
Well, I just flew over from Australia and I fasted. It's more about the experience, getting on the plane and just enjoying the scenery, the people. The food smelled terrible anyway. Didn't look appealing at all to me. And, I was able to just fast and not worry about it. So, fasting for me.
When I flew here to Texas, I just fasted because that was the best thing. But other than that, I just like taking like ribeye jerky or carnivore crisp. They seem to do the best. Just little thing to tide you over. But really, when I'm traveling or I'm on the go, I plan on, I just always plan a faster on it because it's just so much easier. So.
Yeah, if I'm not fasting, I'll just pack frozen sticks of butter. It's just super easy, pure energy for me. And it's delicious. It keeps me full. I don't really have to eat a lot, so I can also save money. And if I do want to eat at restaurants, I like to go to Buffalo Wild Wings because they do cook all of their chicken wings in only beef tallow. They don't use seed oils. I've triple checked, called them. It's only beef tallow. So you can get their plain chicken wings with no seasonings, no salt, or you can add salt. And you already, did you already go?
Right away, yeah.
Okay, perfect. So that's all of us. By the way, Do you guys need to go take a bathroom break? I know this is supposed to end at 10 p.m., but the number is only getting higher. We're now at 5,000 people. Do you want to wrap up though? No? You want to keep going? Oh,
Okay.
awesome. Dr. Baker, go in.
Yeah, I'm happy to keep going, but can I just, I think a topic that I think we should discuss, if you don't mind me interjecting, I think, with this sort of Ozempic stuff that's come out, one, I'd be interested to see what Todd and Lindy's thoughts are on that, because it's two people that have lived with and suffered with morbid obesity. What are your thoughts on that? And then maybe the rest of the panel has some thoughts on that, because I think it's an interesting topic that we should discuss.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so my mom had gastric bypass surgery. My sister had gastric lap band, and they both failed. So I watched that stuff my whole life, and I just never had any faith in it. I always thought that I wasn't built wrong. Something went wrong, but I wasn't built wrong, and the answer was never going to be getting something cut out. It just didn't seem right. It didn't seem like the answer. And now, I mean, my mom, one of the reasons she's eating bad is because she can't hardly eat enough food, right? Because she doesn't have her stomach. She's 81 years old. She's got Parkinson's. And she's wasting weight because she can't eat but a few ounces and she can't absorb any nutrients. It's like a real problem for her. So, I look at all these promises for a miracle pill or something, and that's what really drives me crazy, because if I would have only known, I was 600 pounds when I was 14 years old, right? And I've been trying this for a long time. And if I would have only known that it was just this easy, but you go to the doctor and they'd rather give you a bariatric answer, yes, they'll give you a dietitian, but they tell you to cut out fat and red meat. That was the exact thing that completely freed me. And so I do not believe in any way, shape, or form that there's a magic pill, and we don't have an Ozempic deficiency. That's not the magic pill. I don't think there's such a thing. I think there's a proper human diet, and that's what's going to free us. And so when I see that stuff, I just think that it's companies making money off of people's misery, and they're just addiction. And I think it's the worst thing. I mean, it's the biggest thing I want to talk about now is just that, because I see it everywhere,
Yeah, I also failed lap band surgery and many, many diets. I got up to 800 pounds with a lap band and failed diets. Carnivore was the only thing that fixed me. I've been broken pretty much all my life, just never had that off switch. Always wanting food, searching for my next meal. The struggle was real. Carnivore gave me that off switch. I can now eat my meat, stop and forget about it until 8, 10, 12 hours later, even 24 hours. I don't have to eat. My life, it's more about the experiences, being with people now. I actually went to see a surgeon in regards to having some skin removal, and he asked me, how'd you lose all that weight? And I said, well, carnivore diet. And he said, well, not vegetarian. I'm like, no. He says, not Ozempic. I said, no. And he said, would you like some? I'm like, no. Why would I? Carnivore's working for me. Why do I want to have a drug that's going to change my thinking or my thoughts when meat has done that for me? That's been my cure. It's natural. I would never consider it. Even I still have a lot more to lose, and I trust the process. This has been fantastic. It's given me my life back. I don't want to put drugs in my body. What else is it going to do to me? So it's a no for me. Yeah.
I'd just say I absolutely hate Ozempic. I think it's an absolutely awful drug, especially in the dosages that they give it for. Professor Ben Bickman of BYU he did a very good lecture that I saw at the Public Health Collaboration in London last week, and he has some videos on his podcast about it. But I mean, he talks about the biochemistry of it and how this is actually can be quite a harmful drug. How does it help you lose weight? It basically forces you to starve yourself. It causes gastroparesis. It stops your stomach from emptying. This is causing problems with surgeries because you eat something and 24 hours later there's still food in your stomach. It starts to rot and decay. And you start having these weird Ozempic burps. There's just these disgusting decaying food coming out. You get halitosis. It's it upsets your stomach. You feel sick. You feel nauseated. You feel that you don't want to eat. So what do people do? They eat what's highly palatable. They eat some cookies or chocolates or candies or something sweet, something awful. So they get even worse eating habits. They're eating even worse things. They're even have lower nutritional value. They get malnourished, even more malnourished, and they lose weight. But what weight are they losing? Studies have shown that they lose 40% of the weight that they lose is actually lean body mass. So they're not even losing all fat. It's only 60% of it is fat. 40% is lean body mass. I mean, you're talking about muscle and bone in people that are in middle age or elderly. I mean, that's weight that they can't afford to lose. Sarcopenia and low bone density is directly correlated with shorter lifespan in elderly populations. So this is a very dangerous thing. And then around 2 years later, typically these symptoms of nausea and so on, they can resolve. And then all of a sudden, you have these horrific eating habits. Your nausea is gone, so now you can eat a lot more of this stuff, and people regain much of the weight, if not all or more of the weight. But the weight they gain back is fat. It's not the lean body mass. So they're losing 40% of their mass is lean body mass, but they're regaining all fat, 100% fat. And they're much less healthy as a result of this. And people have frankly died from doing this and had very serious health issues, morbidities as well. And it's absolutely dreadful. I think it's just an awful drug. And I think that, they're right, we're just people profiting off of people's misery. I think it's absolutely disgusting. And I think these sort of official people coming out and from very prestigious backgrounds and in official capacities saying, well, obesity is genetic. There's nothing you can do about it. You have to just take these drugs. And it's like, if that were true, then the obesity rate would be exactly flatlined. 100 years ago, the obesity rate in America was less than 2%. So that doesn't make sense. And in 1980, it was about 8%. After World War II, it was 6%. And now it's 42%. And 70% of people are overweight or obese. And so clearly that's not genetic. But they're trying to say it's genetic and say, oh, there's nothing you can do about it. So you're useless, you're helpless, there's nothing you can do except take this wonderful magic drug. And that just makes people a lot of money, again, profiting off of people's misery and suffering. When I first saw Ozempic come out and I saw the studies, and they even I mean, it wasn't like I went searching for this. It was just discussed on the news that people would lose weight, but after 2 years, they typically regain more weight than they lost. I was just like, all right, well, obviously that's a dud. That's not going to go anywhere. And no, it was sold out worldwide within weeks. It blew my mind that anyone would sign up for that. But I think it's a dreadful drug, and I don't think people are being given the informed consent by their doctors about exactly what this stuff does to them, and I don't think that's right.
There are a lot of medications out there that are absolutely good for people with certain conditions, but what you've got to realize when it comes to the drug companies right now is they're not looking to cure things. There was, I think you call it a white page or something like that came out dealing with Goldman Sachs and the company that came up with a cure for hepatitis C. I found out about this through a friend of mine years ago who had hep C, and he talked about, wow, this pill, it took it a few times or something like that. It wasn't very much, and he was cured. Well, the investors said, this is not what we want. We don't want cures. We want people on drugs for life. We want something that's going to be managed for a lifetime. And that's the direction the industry is going right now. And if you keep looking for this magic pill, we've kind of come up with this idea, especially since genetic research, that they're going to come up with some solution that's going to fix everything and you'll be able to take a pill. And there is no pill that fixes everything. That's the bottom line right there. There are pills that are necessary for managing certain problems, but not being a doctor, I don't want to go into a lot of detail on that. I just don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. I know there are medicines out there that some people need, but a lot of this stuff, especially if they're advertising it on television and they're pounding the ads like they are with Ozempic right now, you can tell they're just trying to appeal to that desire for a magical cure, and they're not selling cures.
So, as a cardiac surgeon, I dealt with the consequences of the last obesity miracle, Fen-Phen, and we found out after it was on the market for an extended period of time that it was causing damage to people's heart valves and a condition we call pulmonary hypertension. As is the case with a lot of these medications, there are side effects that only become apparent or maybe only get revealed after, these drugs get spread far and wide. And kind of like I mentioned earlier with statins, every situation has risks and benefits, and we need to be able to carefully evaluate those risk versus benefit and figure out which patients may benefit. But the pattern we see over and over with medications is the benefits are usually over promoted and the risks are usually under promoted. And we just have to be cognizant of that. And I personally have not been prescribing or using these medications with my patients, and I think we have better options for dealing with the obesity problem ultimately.
Powered by the proper human diet is what this mission is really about. And so the more we share ways that people can heal themselves and they can have a lifestyle that they'll maintain where they want to be, that's the most critical thing. These drugs are always going to come out. They're always going to be there because the powers that be, it's about making more money. And GLP-1s are required for life. So they're going to help you lose weight, but you got to stay on them forever because we all know that you're going to gain that weight and feel miserable again. But the other problem is how we treat people that are overweight. We're very judgmental, and I think that's one of the problems in the medical communities, that we judge people based on their size, and we shouldn't do that. The more we help people love themselves as we respect and love them, then we can help them heal by teaching them more about the proper human diet.
I feel like carnivore is so successful because it's what's natural for humans, and taking a pill that forces you to consume less but allows you to continue consuming the wrong things is not natural and just seems like a recipe for disaster.
I don't think there's much here that I can add that everybody hasn't already added.
Dr. Baker, did you want to finish with any thoughts?
I've got a lot of thoughts on this, and I mean, when we look at these drugs, they're being touted as the next latest and greatest things. They're using for cardiovascular indications now because there's some studies that indicate association with less heart disease. Obviously there's weight loss. There's some significant concerns. I mean, you've got to remember, every time pharmaceutical industries promise you something, they always overpromise, underdeliver. They basically, the side effects that we are starting to see now, undoubtedly those will continue to occur at much greater rates than the pharmaceutical companies that perform these studies will let out there. So we have to realize that going into that. You can't trust these people very far. Additionally, we look at some of the mechanisms. Obviously, interestingly, there's a great study out there that shows that beef protein isolate is an outstanding natural stimulator of GLP-1 in the body in the way it's meant to be stimulated. The GLP-1 is elicited by the L cells in the ileum typically, and they're in response to nutrition reaching the distal part of the small intestine. There's something called the ileal brake. And when the way it's supposed to last is it's supposed to act very quickly and rapidly and dissipate very quickly. These drugs hang around in the system for days, weeks, and sometimes longer than that. That's why if you have surgery, you have to off these drugs for sometimes a month, because you're at a much higher risk for aspiration because your stomach will not empty properly. Additionally, concerns around fat cell hyperplasia. You know, Dr. Chaffee talked about lean muscle mass, but we see is fat cell hyperplasia. So what happens is, even though you shrink in size, your fat cells actually multiply due to the metabolic uncoupling that occurs. And so what happens when you go off these drugs, now you have more fat cells than you had before you started them. And guess what happens when you can't tolerate the drugs due to side effects or expense or whatever supply they run out? You're going to likely gain most of the weight back. And so again, I talk about this, I think is a very important concept that both Todd and Lindy touched on. It is disempowering to you as an individual when you are now dependent on some other person to give you a drug, which you may or may not get. It's stress producing, it's anxiety producing. And again, this is something that you're still, at some point, there are no shortcuts. At some point, you're going to have to deal with your food addiction, and you're going to have to figure it out in a sustainable way, and you're going to have to go on a diet that is actually what you're meant to eat.
I just want Todd and Lindy to reiterate, how many pounds have you guys lost so far with just carnivore diet? Go ahead, Todd.
Let's see. I'm down 276 pounds as of today.
I've lost about 500 pounds.
Yes. So definitely follow Todd and Lindy. They both have their own YouTube channels. The Carnivore Cure for Todd and Limitless Lindy for Lindy. Amazing. We love you guys. Okay, let's go back to the super chats. We're now still 5,000 people watching. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. I know it's super late where you guys are. Let me just put this up.
Right here too. That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
We can pull an all-nighter. Thomas says, is it me or does anyone else think that they're looking at some very low energy carnivores? Long day, perhaps. I think we look very tired. Let's put on a smile. But we did have a long day. We woke up very early. We are at Hack Your Health, Austin, Texas right now. This is not the panel for Hack Your Health, Austin, Texas. This is something we're doing extra for you guys. For those who can't be here, we want to answer your questions and help you guys out. But tomorrow in person at Palmer Center, Hack Your Health, we will be speaking there 1 p.m. Okay, back to Super Chat. All right. Dr. Chaffee. I've been carnivore a few months, but I have not been able to cut out microplastics. But I've heard some of you talk about it. Would I be okay not cutting out all of these plastics?
I mean, look, this is the sort of the next thing. I mean, you just don't want things in your body that aren't supposed to be there, and microplastics would certainly be one of these things. I mean, you're getting rid of more bad things out of your body. That's great, but I wouldn't ignore the other things. I mean, there's very simple ways of avoiding these things. Like not using Teflon pans, try not to drink out of the plastic bottles that we have here, things like that. Reusing plastic bottles, all that sort of stuff. These little things that you can do that can improve these things. But if you're just eating a carnivore diet and you've cut out all these other sorts of things, obviously you're going to get a lot of benefit out of that, and then you can start thinking about fine tuning these other exposures down as well, and you're just going to keep improving your health. We don't really know the long-term effects of these microplastics. They're probably not good. They do seem to disrupt our hormones. It can potentially affect our fertility. There's a recent study that looked at biopsies of testicles. They found 100% of testicles sampled had microplastics in them. So that's probably not great. And so, these things are ubiquitous. And so I would keep that in mind, and I would try to avoid that if at all possible, using steel cups and things like that, and drink bottles, all these other sorts of things. And just keep that in mind anyway, because I think it's probably actually something that we should think about. But you're already going to be making big improvements just by going on carnivore, and that's great too.
Are you guys enjoying the photos? So we're right now showing photos of Hack Your Health, all of us, some snaps throughout the weekend. Dr. Kiltz and me at Fogo de Chao. Raymond and Kiltz looking so hot. Me again with my plate of 3 pounds of meat today. Yeah, so much fun. Oh, let's not do so much of me, please. Raymond, Emily, Coach Amy. Yeah, these are amazing photos. It's such a great time here. I know not all of you guys are here, like most of you guys are not here, but we will have more meetups all around the States and hopefully international. You're going somewhere next, right? Aren't you going to Switzerland?
I am, yes. So I'll be speaking at a Keto Live sports event in Switzerland and St. Moritz in Switzerland in a week from now, and so I'll be giving a talk on ketogenic athletics. Specifically, they wanted me to speak about my experiences as a professional athlete on a carnivore diet, because I just happened to fall into a carnivore diet in my early 20s and felt a lot better as an athlete doing that. So they wanted me to talk about a bit about that and carnivore athletics.
Dr. Baker, you're speaking somewhere next too.
Yeah, I've got a dauntingly lengthy speaking schedule coming up. I think the next event I'll be in is going to be, I'm actually speaking in front of the South Dakota Cattlemen's Foundation to help try to raise some money for carnivore research. I'll be then speaking in front of a group alongside a guy named Tim Tebow, a professional American football player. Clay Clark's putting that on in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and then in the following month in Nashville, I'll be at the largest Bitcoin gathering in the country. So it's good that I'm getting outside of the low carb sort of environment to kind of get this message out there to more diverse groups. So.
Well, and as bougie as Switzerland is too, Chaffee, aren't you coming to what is it, Riverton, Wyoming on August 24th? Real exotic place.
Yeah, well, I'll be. Yeah, I've got some other speaking engagements as well. So I'll be in San Diego for the Symposium for Metabolic Health in August, and then a week after that, I'll be up in Wyoming for the Rendezvous City Beef Roundup. And they're trying to make that a very big carnivore sort of convention, and try to make that as big as possible. It's really good. I went to it last year. And it was a lot of. It was very fun. It was a lot of nice people that were, very interested in beef and producing it. And they had a contest on the best sort of beef producers. And I was fortunate enough to be a judge, and I got to eat a whole bunch of steaks, which was great. And they said, it was like, hey, we're having this contest on who has the best steak. Would you like to be a judge? Absolutely, I would like to be a judge and just eat a lot of steak. They really don't have to ask me twice on that. And so they're doing that again, and then they're trying to make it a big carnivore event. It's actually funny. They're changing the town motto of Riverton, Wyoming, to the most carnivore-friendly city in the world, which is great. And so they're really leaning into it, which is fun. So if people can make it out to that, that'd be great to see. I absolutely love Wyoming, and I spent a lot of time in the Tetons and Yellowstone. So we spent another 4 days just exploring around, which was great. And then a whole bunch of other things. We'll be in Spain in October for another conference, and Adelaide in November, Melbourne for low carb down under in September, things like that. So yeah, quite a few events as well.
Awesome. Yeah, everyone, let us know where you want us to visit next. Put it in the live chat. Okay, this super chat is from Metal Girl. Put it on screen. I'm turning 50 and I'm falling apart. Diagnosed with limited systemic sclerosis, Hashimoto's, and feeling very disheartened. I'm not sure how to approach carnivore to heal. Any advice? Thank you. Dr. Kiltz.
Join SBG and KMT. Steak and Butter Gang and Kiltz Mighty Tribe. And we both have courses and a lot of coaches on SBG. I think it's amazing. It's a community of support. It's the best way to listen and learn from others that have done it. And that's how I've learned to do it many years ago. And I continue to listen and learn from all the experts here and many others. The stories are critical, and your diseases, your disorders, your problems are all secondary to plant-based, low animal fat diet. and eating like a grazing animal rather than a carnivore animal. And we've all been taught to eat that way, unfortunately. It's the propaganda that we've all lived with forever, and go carnivore and bacon, eggs, butter, beef. You can even have Kiltz's ice cream, but actually Bella's might be better. And salt.
No, it's not. And I also recommend Dr. Baker's Revero. Could you please talk about Revero, Dr. Baker?
Yeah, I've been doing this community thing for many, many years now, and I think they're wonderful. I think they're great. But one of the reasons we decided to do a full medical thing is because I think people with significant medical issues do need the oversight of a physician, not just a health coach that may or may not have the qualifications or the expertise to deal with complex medical issues, deprescribing drugs, nor are they allowed to. It's actually illegal for someone to tell you to come off medications. That's called practicing medicine without a license. So that's why we have to have a collection of physicians that actually support this, philosophically are aligned, because one of the frustrations that many people share in my community that I had and many of the other communities is they do these great things, they feel better, and yet their doctor that they go to will not support them, and often will scare them, and often will almost bully them into stopping. And I think that's unfortunate. And so that's why we created Rivero for one of many other reasons. So it's awesome to get a community behind you. I think it's incredibly important. The issues this particular super chat person was talking about, complex, autoimmune, difficult things, it's going to require a very dialed-in diet, in my opinion, to figure that out. So, again, thanks for letting me talk about Rivero.
Rivero website is currently shown on the screen. Definitely check it out, guys. And I also want to plug Healing Humanity. Personal testimonials is so powerful, so inspiring, and Kerry and Adam are doing it right now. Talk about it.
Yes, we're doing a documentary where we're following people around over the course of a year that are undergoing a proper human diet and experiencing amazing healing. And actually, Adam and I tomorrow are doing a presentation at 2 o'clock at Hack Your Health to share a trailer we put together for Hack Your Health and some behind the scenes. And if people want to learn more, it is healinghumanity.movie.
All details are currently shown on the screen. Please make a small donation. They're going to really appreciate it. It's going to go a long way in making this amazing documentary. Thank you, guys. Okay, let's go back to Super Chat from Tom. Thank you, Dr. B, for your January Carnivore Month. I did one over 5 years ago, and I have not looked back. Wow. And let's see, what's his question? Oh, thanks also to Dr. Chaffee for continued support. So just a thank you to you both. Yeah. Lenny, is carnivore safe for those of us with severe oxalate dumping issues? Adding tea and cacao has not helped. It made it worse. What is the best? Supplements like calcium and potassium? I am desperate. Thank you, Dr. Chaffee.
Well, so I mean, I think it's important to understand first, is it oxalate dumping? I mean, there could be a lot of other things that it can be. Oxalate toxicity and oxalate dumping can manifest by definition as any number of symptoms, and those symptoms could be explained by other things as well. You know, in medicine, we have, if you look at all sorts of different symptoms that people have, they can correspond to any number of ailments, and so it's important to make sure that you have the diagnosis right. Is it actually oxalate dumping? Is that actually what you're getting? It's hard to say. But you know, Sally Norton has different protocols that if you are oxalate dumping, having some low oxalate tea, etc., should help mitigate that. If it's making it worse, then maybe it's not oxalate dumping. So I'd think about that. So that's the the most important thing. So try to troubleshoot other sorts of things that you're not addressing because you're focused on the oxalate side of things, and you may be leaving these things out. Are you only eating meat? Are you eating enough fat? Are you doing these other sorts of things? Also, what are your symptoms? I mean, we don't really know exactly what's going on there, so I can't really give you any advice on any alternatives of what it could be. But don't just assume that it's oxalate dumping. Do troubleshoot other sorts of possibilities as well. Just remember that. And just because I remember it from before when Dr. Baker was talking about gout, just remember too that there are other things, pseudo gout, which used to be called gout, that can manifest as gout. One of them is oxalates, but there are a number of others, about 4 things we are categorized under pseudo gout that look very much like gout. And the only way you can tell is if you stick a needle in the afflicted joint and take an aspirate. And so just remember that we're saying that this is something that looks like a duck, walks like a duck, but it may actually be something else. So just remember that and make sure you get the diagnosis right.
We're all good. Okay. And I also recommend checking out Sally K. Norton. She's the expert, I'm sure we all agree, on oxalates. So just Google or YouTube search Sally K. Norton. Okay. Lupita, thank you for your super chat. She says, I recently found out I have a straight spine, lost thoracic and lumbar curvature. I've had gut issues, tightness in the lumbar. How much can the bowel be affected by smothered nerves, Dr. Baker?
Well, I mean, often when we see loss of natural curves, whether it's lumbar lordosis or cervical lordosis, the natural tendency is often due to often it's a muscular pull that's causing that. You could be, having just these kind of unremitting spasms or potentially loss of mobility. Could those curves impact the gut? I mean, conceivably they could be, but it's probably not the curves themselves. It's probably the underlying inflammatory issues, which are probably causing both of those things. So I think they're indirectly related, but they could be, affected equally by whatever's causing the problem. And so without knowing what else is going on health-wise, it's hard to say for sure. I think, again, I hate to sound like a broken record, but the same sort of things apply. Eat a good diet, stop eating junk, don't smoke, don't drink, get good sleep. Don't be sedentary. Deal with sort of circadian biology. Do those things consistently over time, and hopefully they'll fix whatever the underlying condition, which is probably perhaps contributing to both of those things.
Heal the gut, you heal the rest of the body. It really is the most important thing, because inflammation in the gut will contribute to back problems and spine problems, as Dr. Baker suggested also.
Dante, did you want to add to this?
Excuse me. No, what he talked just to add on to what he said about healing the gut being the key thing to healing your body. I mean, that was the reason I started a carnivore way of eating, was because my gut issues, and doctors would just look at me like I was crazy. And ever since I embarked on this journey to heal my gut, it has healed many other things. I mean, I had high blood pressure before. I had GERD symptoms. I had medicines for GERD. I had medicines for high blood pressure. I was able to come off all of those with my doctor's guidance as well, which was nice because I had somebody who was willing to work with me. And, for those of you, I get a lot of this. People want to know, what doctor can I talk to that's going to help me? I certainly recommend Revero for that.
Awesome. Thank you, Dante. Let's keep going. This is from Aaron. Putting it on the screen right now. I'm on day 5 of carnivore and I might be allergic to beef. My fingers are so swollen, I cannot bend them. Also have a rash. What are your thoughts? Is it possible to do carnivore without red meat and butter? Egg yolks also give me issues. Dante, you can start.
Allergic to beef. Oh man, that would be a rough one for me, because that's about 99.9% of what I eat. Yes, it's possible to do carnivore without red meat. There's folks who do it just with chicken and pork because it's in their budget better, because red meat's more expensive typically. So certainly you can, and it depends on what your goals are, what you're trying to, what you're working on healing. But if you're having a problem with beef, then you definitely want to avoid that. I know that Michaela Peterson talked about her lion diet experience. She had to go strictly lamb to be able to overcome some of the problems she was having with beef. And that was the solution for her for a long time. I'm not sure if it's still the case, but I do know that different forms of red meat can have a different effect on people too. So yes, absolutely, you can do carnivore without red meat. Now, when it comes to doing lion diet, technically no, because all the ruminant animals are red meat.
So yeah, I mean, you can certainly do a carnivore diet without red meat or butter, eggs, and all these sorts of things. You're only 5 days into it, so you have to sort of think of other things as well. I mean, all of those things can be seen when you're sort of coming off of a lot of these things. You're sort of withdrawing. If you're losing, when you're burning fat, you can get rid of different toxins, and you can get weird rashes and reactions from that as well. If you notice that other meats don't give you that reaction, don't give you the rash, don't give you the swollen hands and fingers, and just stick to those meats. That's not a big deal. But this could also be just a strange reaction that you're having while you're transitioning, which does happen. People have weird reactions when they're transitioning. When they're losing body fat, they can also have weird things happen to them as well. I've spoken to a dermatologist who treats his patients with keto and carnivore, and that's what he notices, and that's sort of his theory, is that you're sort of releasing different fat-soluble toxins, and he sees a lot of rashes because of that. They go away. So the people being allergic to beef, there really isn't a true beef allergy that I know of. There's the alpha-gal syndrome that comes from the bite of a Lone Star tick, and that can make people sensitive to that, to red meat. But from what I understand, it's typically temporary, lasts sort of 6 to 12 months, and then goes away. But you can eat other meats as well. But yeah, you definitely don't have to do it with red meat. If that's consistently happening, or eating other meats and everything's fine, you have red meat and your hands blow up, then yeah, just don't eat it. That's fine.
This is for you, Dante. VA. I just want to thank Dante for his 3-year video. I watched it on February 28th and I started carnivore on March 1st. I was 317 pounds today. I am 254 from Vlad. Wow.
63 pounds in that short period of time. That's fantastic, man.
That's
I'm
awesome.
glad it helped.
Hey, Dante, I was going to say, when we were kind of plugging everything, you started like a little coaching, like life coach deal too. I wanted to give you a chance to shout out if you don't mind.
Sure, you can check it out at my website, which is ferrignofreedom.com. And I'm not claiming to be an expert. So, I mean, a lot of these guys are going to have more information available to you. But I know there's a lot of people who watch my channel and find me to be inspirational to them, or feel like they want to understand more. I just wanted to make that option available so that people could have that direct one-on-one with me and be able to give them encouragement and also direction based on what I've been through. Because, I have a lot of videos that talk about a lot of different things that I've experimented with. And it's hard to sometimes, if you watch just a handful of them, you might get a mixed bag. So if you feel like you need to get down to the brass tacks and just say, hey, tell me about it. Help me understand what you did differently. Then that's what I created that for. And to use some of the things that I've been studying, because I'm researching all the time now. For the first year or so, I didn't do a whole lot of research because it was just so doggone easy. And I didn't even know about the carnivore community being out there when I got started. I just kind of stumbled on it because of Jordan Peterson. But it has become the focus of my life now, is to help people get healthier. And for whatever reason, I have a gift for being able to help people take a step in that direction. I'm thankful for that gift, and I'm here to help.
I just wanted to additionally shout out Dante. Carnivore's changed my life forever because of his inspiration and his story, and I've heard that over and over and over again. So thank you so much, Dante.
You're welcome, brother. Thank you for what you do, Kerry, man. This carnivore documentary you're working on, awesome. Looking forward to being a part of it. Sorry I couldn't be there this weekend.
I'm just glad you're safe.
Absolutely.
Me too.
We're all very happy you're doing well. Adam, well, we got the camera on you too, and we're doing plugs. We wanted to mention this awesome ironing the branding irons for the cutting boards.
Sure, absolutely. So we had a really awesome event tonight that Todd put together. We had a bunch of tomahawk ribeyes and some dino ribs, and they were absolutely delicious. So thank you, Todd, for doing that for everybody. And thank you to Ashley and Brett for helping cook. And we want to shout out Garrett Manufacturing or Mojo Manufacturing, Garrett at Mojo Manufacturing, for supplying the brands, custom brands for Healing Humanity, and these custom cutting boards that we were able to pass out to everybody tonight as a special gift. So thank you so much to Garrett at Mojo Manufacturing. And one other thing about Garrett, he actually told me, this is totally random, I asked him if he would help to donate some branding irons. And he actually said that he started the carnivore diet January 1 of this year and did it for 2 months because of Dr. Chaffee's videos and Dr. Baker's videos. So he's hoping that I can get a picture for those with his brand with these two guys. So thanks to Garrett with Mojo Manufacturing.
Awesome. Perfect. Also, I just want to mention everybody's links, socials are linked down below in the description box. Whoever's channel you are watching this live stream on, please hit the like button, and also go ahead and subscribe to all of these amazing carnivores if you are not already. And let us know, are you enjoying this live stream? Do you want more? Give us your feedback in the live chat, please. Thank you so much for the kind words, guys. Okay, let's keep going. This is from Batch. Okay. Please speak on the relationship between carnivore style and blood type, Dr. Baker.
Yeah, I get this question quite honestly, and there is some validity to that. And this is how I like to address this. If your blood is red, you have the right type to go carnivore. If your blood is green, go vegan. No, but seriously, I've asked that question, and there are the normal distribution in the population of type A, type B, type AB, type O in the carnivore population. There is no validity when it comes to blood type with regard to meat. There may be some, however, for other foods, but that's not my concern.
Yeah, I mean, the idea that, I mean, the blood type is just like it's protein on your red blood cell, proteins on your red blood cells. And the idea that the proteins on your red blood cells are going to fundamentally change your entire digestive tract system, nutritional requirements, your ability to break down and metabolize fiber is a bit far-fetched. So no, I don't think there's any issue with your blood type. And I mean, people saying that, well, if your blood type O, then you come from hunter-gatherers. If your blood type A, you came from more agrarian. We all come from hunter-gatherers, right? It's just everyone's a hunter-gatherer, and A, O, B. This goes throughout all different populations, and so it's not really it's not going to fundamentally change what you are as an animal. The different blood types of lion, they're still lions. They still eat what they're supposed to eat. So just because a parakeet has a different blood type than another parakeet doesn't mean you give them different feed. So no, I don't think that that's anything that you need to worry about.
What blood type are you?
I'm blood type A, so I'm supposed to be a vegan, apparently. So, yeah.
So I'm blood type B. I was supposed to be a vegan, and I was that crazy vegan for 6 years. Okay, didn't work for me. I lost my period. I got worse cystic acne on my skin. Nothing healed. When I went carnivore, I healed. And I feel the best that I've ever felt. I am so happy. I sleep well. My period is back. I actually have painless monthly cycles. So if you think that bloating and PMS and pain and headaches every single month when you have your period is normal, it's not normal. So if you go carnivore, preferably high-fat carnivore, you don't have to eat sticks of butter like me. You could really have an amazing female hormonal life. So let me know what blood type you are in the live chat. Okay, next. This is from NZ Adventure Family. Oh, Dr. Baker, please describe the physiology of inflammation.
Yeah. So interesting. There's a guy named Virchow who sort of described this in basically 4 things: turgor, rubor, calor, and dolor. And those things basically translated from Latin mean increased heat, increased pain, increased redness, and increased swelling. So that's basically what was been described since the 1800s or so. I think Virchow was German, if I'm not mistaken. But I mean, inflammation is a normal physiologic process. We would die if we could not get inflammation. Inflammation occurs after exercise. Inflammation occurs after eating. Inflammation occurs for a variety of reasons, all of which are physiological. Now, we contrast that to chronic inappropriate inflammation, which is where we start to see the pathophysiology. So this is, again, there are some good things about inflammation, but when it's chronically going on continuously, it's a protective response. You think about it. If I step on a something that is causing me damage, my body reacts to it. Same thing if I withdraw from touching a flame. In fact, this is an interesting story. When I was a sixth grade science student, I liked my sixth grade teacher, Mrs. Hayes, because she was just gorgeous, I thought. Anyway, she quit and became a flight attendant. But she asked me how I would redesign the human body. And I said, I think we should have faster reflexes. So when we touch something, we get away quicker. But you think about that, our ability to respond to pain is a protective response. And if we didn't have that, we'd leave our hand in the fire, right? So same thing like inflammation kind of allows us to protect ourselves from these things. And so what are we doing? We're withdrawing from an irritant. Now, what happens if we chronically expose ourselves to irritants, right? We're supposed to learn from that. You know, a little kid only puts his hand on a hot stove one time, right? But if we continuously damage and inflame our guts from eating garbage continuously, and then we pass it off as normal. Oh, that's just normal digestion, that bloating, that pain, that discomfort, that gas, that awful foul smell that's emanating from our rear end is normal, which so many of us have been taught that it is. You know, we got these vegans telling us that humans lived outside, that's why farting all the time was normal. It's complete nonsense. So again, it's context. Just like everything we learn about human physiology, it's contextual, right? Is glucose high contextually? Sometimes, yeah. Sometimes we see in world-class athletes, they get a blood glucose over 400 milligrams per deciliter in intense competition. There are stress hyperglycemia. You know, if you're a type 1 diabetic and you have a really bad cold or an injury, it's damn near impossible to get your blood glucose back down to normal. There's physiologic reasons why that occurs. So anyway, I know. So 4 things, you know, heat, you know, swelling, pain, and redness. That's inflammation.
Amazing. I just put this comment up. I miss farting, LOL. I actually see this a lot. Like, we just don't fart anymore when you eat meat. I know I don't. Yeah. Let's keep going. Thank you so much for the super chats, guys. We really appreciate it. We love you. This is BM7888. Is it safe to eat beef liver or organ meats every day? I'm concerned about the excess vitamin A and copper. Thank you, Dr. Chaffee and Team Carnivore, for saving my father and myself from Japan.
Oh, well, that's great. Well, I'm really happy for you and your father. That's great. I think that eating organs is perfectly fine. I try to keep that in the proportion of the animal, though. If you're out hunting and you take down an ox, that ox is going to have enough skeletal muscle, meat, and fat on it to feed you for the next 1.5 to 2 years, depending on the size of the ox. It has 1 liver, it has 1 heart, it has 2 kidneys, and you should probably keep that in mind. I think that you do run a risk of getting hypervitaminosis A. You can get a buildup of different metals, and especially the fat-soluble vitamins. So that's something to consider. Hypervitaminosis A is known to suppress TSH, so you're going to get thyroid dysfunction and other sorts of issues. It takes a long time to get out of your body. The amount of vitamin A that's in marine predators, such as seals and polar bears, it can be toxic. So the Inuit would avoid the livers of seals and especially polar bears. That can be a potentially lethal dose of vitamin A if you have too much of all those. So you're not really going to get that to that level with cow liver. However, you could potentially get too much of a good thing and get hypervitaminosis. So and then there's sort of the caveat with when people are starting a carnivore diet, they're typically very nutritionally deprived. And so adding in a bit of liver and organs is probably the best thing that you can do for yourself. And certainly when you're eating a mixed diet, it's very beneficial. And so, having some of those things early on can be very helpful to catch you up and get you back up to a more normal nutrition level. And also, the meat that we're eating, depending on how many micronutrients are in it, having bolstering that up with a bit of liver and organs can be quite helpful. But I just would limit it. I would keep it in proportion of the animal. Just remember, there's hundreds of times the amount of meat on that animal than there are pounds of liver. So just sort of keep that in mind and have a bit, but don't have too much.
Awesome. Thank you. This is for you, Dr. O. Showing it on the screen. From Carnivore Jarhead. Those of us with an elevated CAC score minus 149, is there any concern being on a carnivore diet and it getting worse?
So, no, I don't have any concerns about being on a carnivore diet with a CAC score that's elevated. It's a major part of the treatment protocol I use in my practice for people with elevated CAC scores. And, I guess some general comments about CAC scores. It's something that should be tracked over time. What I oftentimes run into is, people first hear about the CAC score when they come to low carb diets, when they come to carnivore diets. And so they get the first scan and it's elevated and, we don't know the time frame of that elevation. So I think it's important to follow it, over time, get another scan a year later and see if that score is going up or not. And my general experience is low carb diets, carnivore diets, address the underlying driver of the coronary calcification, which is insulin resistance. And so we address that, and the calcification tends to stop progressing.
Thank you, Dr. O. This is from David. My dad is 75. He has Still's disease, generally whole food diet, and also a beer drinker. Can carnivore help? And thoughts on starting carnivore for an older person set in his ways? Dr. Baker.
Okay. This is kind of my pat answer. I can't say I've seen any with Still's disease do carnivore diet. However, good nutrition is always beneficial. I'll say that. I don't care if it's a genetic disease. I don't care if it's cancer. I don't care if it's anything. And there is no age restriction to carnivore. I've seen people literally in their 90s improve significantly. So the short answer is, yes, it could be potentially beneficial. I don't see any reason to, any contraindication based on his age or condition that would preclude him from doing carnivore.
Dr. Baker, is there a condition that we shouldn't do carnivore?
I should have a clever answer for this, but I think that the answer is no. I think there are no nutrition impacts every aspect of our physiology. It impacts every single disease state out there. Good nutrition is good nutrition. It's basically as simple as that. Now, I can make a joke about veganism, but the cure for veganism is obviously a steak, and that's one of those things that that's the safe thing about it, that there is a cure for that. But I don't know, maybe Dr. Ovadia has a condition that can't be helped by good nutrition.
Yeah, I'm yet to find one. So I agree. We really. The point of a carnivore diet is you're getting the most nutrient-dense, bioavailable food source to us as humans. And so how could that possibly be harmful is really my answer to that. And I guess I'm still looking. I'm always, I think as physicians, we're always looking for what we might be wrong about. And in the case of carnivore, I'm yet to find that condition that it's not at least worth trying. And it may not be a miracle cure. it may not cure everything, but I think it's a foundation upon which we can build good health ultimately.
Awesome. What do you guys think? Share your thoughts in the live chat, please. Okay, let's keep going. For everyone to answer quickly, from Rob, do any of you eat and or recommend fermented foods such as yogurt, kefir, or sauerkraut on the carnivore diet to optimize the gut biome? Some say we are lacking in these.
I think our understanding of the microbiome and what affects it is very lacking at the moment, and we'll hopefully find out a lot more about that. I know people. I actually work with some researchers in Perth, or have worked with them that published over 150 papers on the microbiome, and even they say like we really don't have all this idea, but they think that this is once we figure it out, we'll have a much better grip on overall health. But as far as like these different fermented sort of things, maybe, but there are a lot of people that don't use any of these sorts of things, and they go on a carnivore diet and it significantly improves their gut microbiome. Just talked to a friend of mine, Ben Azadi, who many people here probably know. He's been a clean keto person for many years, did a microbiome test. It was sort of, it was good but not great. And the recommendation was, of course, eat less red meat, eat more leafy greens and fiber. And he did the exact opposite of that. He just went on a carnivore diet, cut out all fiber, and it improved dramatically. He had a much better diversity, had much better amounts of the different bugs, and then a bunch of bugs that didn't show up on his last assay actually showed up. And they're like, oh, these are so great. So he didn't do any of these ferments. And we see studies with the Inuit, when they may be eating sort of off meat or something like that, but they're not necessarily doing fermented, kimchi and things like that, or kefir or yogurt, and they have some of the most healthiest and most biodiverse or diverse microbiomes around. And so I don't think you necessarily need to do that. Maybe if you have taken a course of antibiotics, you might consider taking some of these things. If you just eat some yogurt, though, you're going to kill all those microbes in your stomach. A lot of the studies on probiotics coming out recently has shown basically no help, or possibly just they're worse if anything. A bunch of sugars and nasty stuff in there. So some people talk about having a bit of yogurt or fermented things chewed up with meat in the same bite, chew it up together, try to sort of stuff those little bacteria down into the bolus of food, and then swallow that down. Maybe that protects it. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. Also, we have bacteria in our mouth, and we're going to seed our gut bacteria with our oral bacteria. That's probably where some of these things are coming from. You're chewing up your food and some of these bacteria getting in there. We have a different oral biome on a carnivore diet, remarkably different oral biome on a carnivore diet than you do on a normal plant-based diet with a bunch of carbohydrates. You cultivate different bugs, and this is why we typically don't get cavities either. And so if you have a different oral biome, you're going to have a different intestinal biome as well. And so I think it just really just takes care of itself, honestly. And so I don't think you have to do those. And I think I just don't think you necessarily have to do that. But if you do, just understand that once you've established a microbiome, it's established, and it should just be fed and perpetuated based on what you're eating, and you shouldn't have to just keep reseeding it over and over and over and over again. You get it set up, and it should take care of itself from there just on what you're eating.
How about you, Dante? Do you eat any fermented foods?
No, and I have, excuse me, I haven't really been interested in investigating it, because everything that I've experimented with, because I'm on lion diet for those gut healing reasons, it seems like everything I've tried has been a problem. So I don't have a desire to experiment with that. But I will say that one of these companies that sells probiotics reached out to me one time and wanted me to try their products. So I've done several tests with their gut biome feature, and everything always comes out great as far as what they say is a good gut biome. I was looking at it had a symptom score where the higher the number, the less symptoms you have of any problems. And mine was above the community range, which was 61 to 91%. Mine was 96%. And this was after just over 2 years of eating this way. So yet they still wanted me to try their product. They said they got a perfect product just for me. I have a feeling it's the same product that everybody gets. And I even tried it out for a couple of months. I saw no difference whatsoever. Now, I haven't tried the fermented vegetables. Like Dr. Chaffee said, there may be something to it. Like Dr. Omara seems to really be hot on fermented vegetables. They may be great for him. They may be great for some people. I don't know that this whole gut biome thing is going to play out to prove anything in that area, but I'm sure there is a factor with that gut biome issue. It's just we haven't figured it out yet. So I haven't seen a need for it myself.
The microbes are everywhere. That doesn't mean they're good for us. If they're in an open wound, they're deadly. If they're in our bloodstream or any other organ of our body, they're deadly, harmful. We're selling another drug, probiotics, prebiotics, never been proven. But when a pharmaceutical company or a supplement company is trying to convince us they're important, obviously the microbes are likely one of the biggest killers and causes of disease within us, and they start in the gut. And so my bet is fermented foods, which are made from plants, and adding potentially alcohol that comes from fermentation, I don't believe it's good for us. No one's ever proven this. But again, another argument that we keep on going down, but I would say the probiotics and the bacteria and yeast and viruses in our gut are not helpful for us. They're harmful.
I'll just add quickly that I've had yogurt from time to time. I don't eat sauerkraut or any. I think first of all it tastes disgusting, but the other thing is, if you're for some reason compelled to consume some sort of vegetation, it may be arguably that if it's pre-fermented, it'll be less likely to ferment in your gut, so you'll have less of that. So it may be less harmful to you in that capacity. But to think that it is required, in my view, is kind of preposterous. It's like, when people tell me plants are necessary for human gut function, first of all, there's a nice paper that Dr. Tommy Wood, Lucy Mailing, and one author did in 2021 looking at the metabolic flexibility of the gut, and it shows clearly that we are well adapted to have a healthy gut function, well-fed and well-nourished colonocytes without any fiber in the diet. There's many, many mechanisms to provide that. And then the other thing is the complexity of the microbiome is astronomical. We are literally 110 years after the discovery of cholesterol, still arguing about its relevance, and that's one single molecule. And we've got something that is trillions of times more complex than that, and we think we even have the slightest idea of what we're talking about is complete arrogance, and it's complete nonsense.
And Dr. Kiltz, if you want another daughter, Sammy says, please adopt me, Dr. Kiltz.
We're on it.
Thank you, Carnivorous Dude, for your super chat. I'm showing it on. He says, you all have changed my life for the better. Heart. Thank you so much. We love you. Yes. Hola. For Dr. Anthony Chaffee, I lost 7 kg in 10 months on a strict lion carnivore diet. 6 months before was keto and lost hair. LDL went from 1.8 to 5. No carbs, almost. 5-kilometer walks, 72-hour fast twice a month, and no fat loss. Stall, 0.95 to 87. Any thoughts?
Well, let me just take a look at it. I mean, there are a lot of reasons why you could have a weight loss stall. Dairy can be a stall for a lot of people. Cheese, things like that, can definitely be that. If you're only eating fatty meat and water, are you eating enough? People sometimes fast, sometimes too much. When you're fasting, what are you telling your body? Body's just getting inputs. You don't have this intelligence sitting in the back of your metabolism going, oh, they just want to lose some weight, so we'll do that. No animal will not eat their optimal food if it's sitting there in front of them and they're hungry. So if you're getting these signals from your body saying that you need to eat and you don't eat, you're telling your body that there's no food available. And so your body will just ratchet down your metabolism. We saw this in the starvation studies back in World War II, that when you completely drop down people's intake, yes, they did lose weight, but then eventually it leveled off and plateaued. And some of these people would have lost, if it was just calories in, calories out, they would have lost more weight than they started with it at first. So the metabolism plays a big role in this. And so if you're bringing in, less food and nutrition, you could potentially start reducing the output as well and lowering your basal metabolic rate. And so don't do that. So you want to encourage your metabolism. You just want to eat until fatty meat stops tasting good. You want to exercise. You want to lift weights if you can, sprint if possible, and then just eat appropriately. Also remember that if you are exercising, you are going to put on muscle, and muscle is going to offset the weight that you're losing. So sometimes people get into a stall and they're actually not in a stall because they're just exercising, and they're replacing the fat that they're losing with the muscle that they're gaining. And this is very, very common. I did this. I lost 23 pounds just dropping vegetables. I was already ketogenic, just by happenstance. And I lost 23 pounds in 10 days just dropping vegetables and eating more meat. And then I stayed the exact same weight for several months because I was exercising a lot, and I was just replacing the fat I was losing with the muscle I was gaining. So remember that as well. So eat enough, exercise, make sure that you're only eating meat and water, and then look at how your clothes are fitting, check out your body composition, and just always remember that this is most importantly about your health and how you're doing from a health perspective. Very distant second, it's about your body composition, so your fat and to lean body mass ratio, and nowhere on there is the scale, is how much you weigh, because that is not reflective of your body composition or your health. So that's really not something you want to really get hung up on. And then just give it time. Just keep going with it. Don't worry too much about it. You're still early days, 6 months. How long have you been doing carnivore for? 10 months.
Yeah, 10 months.
10 months on strict carnivore. Just keep going. This is a lifelong thing. You got to think about this as a way of life. You're just eating to be healthy for the rest of your life. And the weight will come, fat will take care of itself. Just focus on your health, focus on eating right, exercising, and just enjoy your life. Don't be too hung up on just the scale.
And take progress pics. I always like to recommend people take progress pics because that's one thing that I wish I did more of. I wish I took progress pics. When I first started carnivore, I gained 25 pounds and I was so embarrassed. I was like, this is the wrong path for me, but I feel so good. So what do? I wish I took progress pics to see how my body morphed. And I know, Lindy, you always say you wish you took more progress pics, but thank goodness you have some of your face. I think you guys won't regret it if you take progress pics like once every 2 to 3 weeks, and it's just for your eyes only. You don't have to share it. It's a much better marker of measuring progress. Did you want to say something, Todd?
No, I definitely agree with that. I thought I stalled for about 7 months through the winter, and I was sitting there thinking through 7 months through the winter that I wasn't making progress, and Adam actually put a short out of a video that me and him had done about 7 months earlier. And then I saw it, and I was like, holy crap, no, I was just composition changes, because I still have a couple changes, but I had about 4 more in that video. And I did lose 3 shirt sizes through that 7 months that I thought nothing was happening, But then I remembered, I had atrophied so much when I was kind of stuck in a chair for so long that I just, I'm so much stronger now. I think it was just a composition change. I think I got muscle back, And so, yeah, it's absolutely.
Can I comment real
May I
quick
make a
on the
comment?
hair loss concern?
Yes, please, Dante. Yes,
I get that question a lot, especially when people see my before and after pics. This was the choice. When I started Line Diet, it was right at the end of 2020, It was January 14th of 2021, actually. Just happened to be Carnivore month. I don't even know if we were doing Carnivore month back then, but to me, it'll always be Carnivore month anyway. But in 2020, I was working as the administrator at a retirement home. I didn't get to see my barber for a year. And I figured, well, since I'm not getting my hair cut anyway, I'll just grow it out and give it to children with hair loss, was my plan at the end of whatever was going on. I just didn't think it was going to go on as long as it did. So my early pictures, you see all this hair. And then I was also wearing a full beard. And I know now, I can admit it now. I couldn't admit it back then. I was hiding behind that beard. So once I started to get my body where I wanted to be, I said, why am I hiding? I don't want my hair long anyway. That was just a short-term thing. And I was losing hair here as early as 12 years before I started doing this. And this area was already going back from my 20s. So I had always said, if I ever started to lose my hair, I'm just going to shave it off. But I wasn't willing to do that when I started to notice I was really losing my hair because I was still hiding behind it. Once I got comfortable with my body, I said, you know what? I'm going to do what I always said I would do. I'm not going to hide behind it anymore. I'm not going to try to do comb overs or any of that stuff. I'm just going to shave it off and be happy. I'm 51 years old, and I would expect I would probably have a little hair loss, especially with the diet that I had before this, and I did have. And it wasn't because of this diet that I went from having all the hair you see in the beginning picture to losing this, except for the way it changed my attitude about my hair. I have seen comments, by the way, on my YouTube channel. Everybody in the world, it's 50-50. They're either saying they lost their hair because of it, or their hair got thicker and darker and everything else because of it. So the thing is, it's all over the scale. And I think it has more to do with other factors as to whether or not you're losing hair. Now, there may be some hair loss because of bad food that you're eating, but I don't think it has anything to do with eating lion diet or carnivore diet of any kind.
I started going bald when I was 18 years old, and I went bald. By the time I was like 21, completely gone. And I started growing hair back. Now, I still completely shave it because it's unsettling, because I look like a 41-year-old newborn kid growing hair now because it's growing back, and I don't like to see it. But it's actually growing back, and I cannot believe it. It's growing back really pretty thick, and I think I'm not holding my breath, but I might actually have a chance at having hair again. So it definitely grew back.
Awesome.
Just on the hair loss thing, this is something that some people experience, and it sort of maybe triggers like a fallout phase that people have sort of theorized that, you go into a ketogenic state and that can trigger a fallout phase. It certainly seems to be something that people notice sometimes. But typically what happens, as long as you're not, there are reasons for hair loss. There are other reasons for hair loss, hypothyroidism, nutritional deficiencies, things like that. But, barring those, if you've addressed those or if they don't have those, typically these things, they grow back. And that's what I find in people. They grow back quite a lot more thickly, maybe possibly not more hairs, but potentially thicker hairs. They sort of fall out and then regrow. And then some people, like Todd, regrows. My brother had sort of thinning hair after a couple of months on carnivore. It was all filled back in. He was like a teenager again. He had like hair model hair. It was just ridiculous. So he came back with and now he didn't get a fallout phase, but he actually did regrow hair. And so that's what some people notice as well. So some people can notice a bit of a fallout, but then they typically find that it comes back if it does fall out and they don't have any of those thyroid issues or nutritional deficiencies. That's something that, Elle, my girlfriend, she works in the hair industry, and she notices a lot with people, and then she works on their hair and she notices like all these like new hairs coming back in. So that's something very typical that she finds when her clients go on a carnivore diet.
Let us know, have you noticed hair loss, hair growth, changes in hair when you went carnivore? Put it in the chat box. Also, I want to give Dr. Chaffee's 30-day carnivore challenge a plug. I'm going to put the website on the screen right now. It is an excellent place for very intimate, tailored coaching. Okay, so talk about it, Dr. Chaffee.
All right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So it's just called howtocarnivore.com, and we just start it every month. It just starts on the first of the month, and we have a lot of different courses and modules that people can go through when they're just getting started on a carnivore diet, and to give people added support and sort of a path forward on what we think are important things to know about when you get started on a carnivore diet. There's also a lot of groups that people can talk to others and get support from. There's a lot of returning members and veterans that have a lot of experience in this, and they can help in the chat. Then we have weekly call-ins and Q&As. First one will be tomorrow, and people get to ask questions. Say, hey, I'm having this problem, or this issue, and can you give me some advice? And we just talk about it. So, it thankfully seems to be something that people find beneficial and useful. And so, if that's something that people think that they need an extra hand with, then that's available. I do try to make all my videos available for free, and so I want people to be able to access all this information without having to pay for it. And so my YouTube channel is open to everyone. I don't have anything behind a paywall. I have a playlist called Getting Started on a Carnivore Diet, where I think if you just watch all those, you probably get a pretty good idea on how to do this. And you don't need all this, but if you do need some added support and extra help and a sense of the community and other people around you, you don't feel like a crazy person just doing this all on your own, that's something to think about and something that hopefully can help you. There's also free ones on Facebook, like free communities like Zeroing In on Health and Zero Carb Health. I find that those are excellent, and you have a lot of people that can help you and support you and make you not feel as crazy as maybe your family does.
So awesome. Check it out, howtocarnivore.com. And everybody's free videos, everybody's YouTube channels are linked down below in the description box. So panelists, we are now over 5,000 live members watching. Do you guys want to continue, or did you want to wrap up? I know it's getting late. It's 10:50 p.m. where we are right here, by the way. Dr. Kiltz, Dr. Baker, what do you think?
10 minutes?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay, 10 minutes.
I've got 3 talks to do tomorrow.
Yeah.
So,
10 minutes.
Yes. Thank you so much. And Dante, thank you so much for staying with us. Okay, we will do rapid fire. Let's just do
Glad to
it
be here.
quickly. Yeah, thank you, Dante. This is from, let's see where we left off here. Vitali. Low on lipase enzyme. How do I fix it? Thank you. Dr. Baker?
I'm curious how they know they're low on lipase. First of all, I mean, where did that come from? So, assuming you are low on lipase, lipase is produced by the pancreas. If there's some sort of I don't know, a duct obstruction. I'm just trying to imagine what could be causing low lipase. Pancreatitis is often the overexpression of lipase, and that can cause problems. There are pancreatic enzymes that you can take as supplements. If maybe what I'm expecting is you're self-diagnosing yourself based on fat malabsorption, and it may just be that you have to be cautious about how much fat you consume in one setting. You might have to dial back things like rendered fat, because those tend to be, I think, ushered through the gastrointestinal from the stomach into the duodenum a little more rapidly than whole unrendered fat. So I would steer away perhaps from rendered fats. I would stick to whole fats, and I would consider just portioning your meals a bit smaller, maybe having, instead of 2 meals, go to 3, 4, 5 meals, whatever it takes. But beyond that, I'd like to know how this was diagnosed, because I'm suspicious it was kind of just a guess.
Okay, let's keep going. This is from Wendy. For Dr. Kiltz, how bad is it to have a small orange or a bit of dark chocolate with a meal? Will that knock you out of ketosis?
I don't recommend it every day, but I think if you had it once a month, it probably isn't going to harm you of any significance. But adding sugars will affect your ketosis because it'll increase glucose levels. So that's an effect on being in ketosis.
Perfect. Steven.
Let me just add to that real quick. Sorry, rapid fire. But one thing we do see with people wearing CGMs, we'll see these sometimes these indulgences in sugars and things like that will literally impact their blood glucose stability for a couple days afterwards. So it's just, sometimes these effects are fairly long lasting. And so just be mindful of that. And again, it's perfection is perhaps not attainable for most people. You do the best you can. I certainly don't recommend people do that. But if it happens, it happens.
Okay, great. Let's keep going. This is from Steven. Hi, I've been on Carnivore for a few months, but I have not been able to cut out. Oh, we've already done this one. Let's keep going. Oh, this is for Dr. Chaffee or Dr. Baker. Carnivore for a year on Monday. I've been eating 22 to 26 ounce ribeye, salt, and water. Had numbness in my toes and got a B12 folate test. I found folate was at 2.6. What do I do?
Well, didn't really say what the B12 was. Don't know if that's in there, but typically the B12 ranges are way too low. So I mean, but these averages, not everybody realizes the reference ranges for all these different lab tests are the average for the community in that lab. So different labs in the same city will have different reference ranges. And so B12 can be all over the place depending on where you test it, but most of them are going to be low. And so if you're in the range for B12, you're probably actually low for B12. You're not on the high end of that or even higher. Folate being a bit low, again, I mean, there's no units here, so we don't know where you are exactly, but I'm assuming that's in units I know about, which would be a bit low for folate. Add in liver. The liver has plenty of folate, plenty of B12. That will cover both of those issues. And if you have some sort of like numbness or neuropathy due to a B12 or folate deficiency, that should sort that out. But it's certainly not the only thing that can cause numbness in your toes. So just be aware of that. But really, at the end of the day, just add liver.
All right, let's keep going. This is from Good Health. Hi, everyone. Thanks for all that you do. I'm carnivore nearly 2 years. I've lost 19 kg, gout-free, but I'm struggling with twitching calves, finger, big toe, cramps, and constipation. Eating very fatty salted meat. Any thoughts would be much appreciated. Let's start with Dr. Baker.
Somebody else chance? Or?
Sure. Dr. Kiltz.
I'll go Dr. Kiltz here.
So what was that? It was
So she has cramping and constipation.
well, constipation is bloating and pain and feels like you got to go, but you're not. So I always question our definition because on carnivore, you go less frequently, and many people consider that constipation, which I don't think it is. But that's when you probably want to add more fat, and that will help tremendously. And then mineral salts, I think, are very good. Magnesium could be very helpful for many people. And stretching and red light therapy, get out in the sun and get walking.
Yep, great tips. Yep, this is for Kerry. Thank you to everyone on this panel, and especially to Kerry for starting the Healing Humanity documentary. Any thoughts?
Oh, thank you so much. There's so many important stories out there that need to be told, and really appreciate all the support of the community. We couldn't be doing it without you all.
Okay, my friend has xanthelasma. Will carnivore help, Dr. O?
I'm going to put this in the category like we mentioned earlier. I haven't worked with a patient with this condition, but I don't see how it can hurt. It's worth a try. That's what I always say.
Perfect, thank you. Lindy and Todd, you guys do this one. Thank you so much for your super chat, Bella. 53-year-old female hurt lower back last year in March, which led me to carnivore. No more pain there. I'm down 80 pounds, but I'm still 230 pounds. I am wanting to start to add muscle because I know it is going to impact or lessen at my age. Where or how is the best place to start?
I started with resistance bands, and then I did light, high rep free weights because I just wanted low impact. And it's crazy how quick that muscle will come back and how strong everything will get in a very short period of time. And then, for me, the SBG's priming program actually helped me quite a lot. I didn't realize that I was under eating too, and so getting enough protein and good fat when I was lifting was huge. So I find that remedy to be high rep, low impact to start, and high protein did wonders for me.
I've actually started rebounding. That's been really good for me. I did have very low back pain, and also being sedentary for so long, just very atrophied. And I started with the vibration plate first, and then it started rebounding. So after long.
And we will wrap up with this last super chat. Thank you guys so much again for all your super chats. We are so sorry that we could not answer them all. But this one says, what an amazing group of people. I love you all. I hope to meet each one of you sometime. And thank you for all that you all do. Thank you guys so much. Feel free to express your gratitude in the chat box. We love you guys and have a beautiful night. Don't forget to hit like and follow everyone in the description box. Everybody, let's hold up our Carnivore Crisps. One more shout out to our sponsor. Thank you so much. Check them out. Discount code EAT MEAT. Yum.
Eat meat, be the best.
Eat meat. Description box down below. Thank you, Dante. Love you. Good night.